And we're live. What's going on, guys? Welcome to the FilmBrony podcast, episode 14. I am, of course, Nick Canino, as mentioned in the channel, and as one of the co-hosts of the FilmBrony podcast, created by one of my best friends here, who's going to introduce himself in just a moment. And welcome to the special edition of the FilmBrony podcast. The reason I say special edition is because today we're gonna be doing the 10 worst movies of 2020. Yes, these are the movies that Soren and I saw in 2020 that we consider the worst of the worst. But we're gonna save that for after we go over the movie related topics. And as always, I would like to mention that the FilmBrony podcast is created by my friend here, Soren, and who originally had his podcast on his other channel, Boy Thunder Productions, but under new management is now done by me on my new channel under new management. So anyway, enough chit chat, guys. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
Hi, my name is Christian Frates. I am an aspiring voice actor and YouTuber with autism, and I have a big collection of films, specifically on VHS, DVD, and Blu-ray.
Nice.
Hello, this is FilmBrony, aka Boy Thunder Productions, and I too have a passion for movies. In fact, I'm currently working to pursue a field in the filmmaking business to hopefully direct my own films and share it with the public, whether it be in theaters or in digital would be another story, but regardless. Which is pretty much why I started this podcast to begin with, to discuss the good, bad, and ugly of the cinema.
Exactly. And one thing I want to mention too before we get started, I'm taking film class. I'm taking directing class starting on Monday.
Nice.
Only due to the coronavirus. We're not going to be doing like online meeting, but rather we're just going to be like rather the students and I who attend the classes are just going to be working on the things that our professor has for us, which is homework.
Okay.
So yeah, that's a plus for me right there. Anyway.
So as always, I got a bunch of recent Blu-rays I have picked up recently. So I have a bunch of it. So let's not be around the bush. First up is 310 Yuma, the remake.
Great
James
movie.
Mangold is a great director.
He is.
He's one of the best filmmakers working today. Not to mention, he directed one of the best movies I saw that Soren and I saw from 2019, which was Ford versus Ferrari.
Yeah, and Logan's in my top 10 favorite movies of all time.
Logan was amazing. One of the best comic book movies ever made.
50-50.
Great movie.
I happen to be with Jim Hawkins.
American Gangster.
Nice.
That's a classic.
That is a classic.
I own the extended cut.
This one comes with the extended cut as well. Next is DreamWorks Ants to a Bug's Life. Ants.
Very good film.
See, I'm an ant, not Rambo.
Awakenings.
Awakenings. I love that movie, and I should also mention I also own a copy of that film too. Give me a second. Where are you? Go ahead while I look for it.
Next, I have a movie starring an actor who's been down on his luck recently, Black Mass.
Great movie, and I feel really sorry for Johnny Depp.
Me too.
Yep.
Amber
Seriously,
Heard has got to go.
She's got to go. What she's doing to Johnny Depp is just absolutely unacceptable.
Really.
Anyway,
Blue Jasmine.
one of the best movies of 2013 and one of Woody Allen's best movies. And here's my copy of Awakenings. The original 1991 RCA Columbia Pictures home videotape, as demonstrated right here. It's a great movie.
Next, I have a movie that, you know why The Godfather only has 3 Oscars? This is pretty much why. Cabaret.
That's a great movie, too.
Next, I have Captain Underpants.
Very good movie.
Tra-la-la!
Tra-la-la!
Chris Farley was going to play Captain Underpants before he
Yeah.
passed away.
Huh.
Yeah, I read something about that.
Catch Me If You Can, one of Spielberg's most underrated.
I agree. I totally agree.
Next, I have Catherine Bigelow's movie, Detroit.
I also own that movie. It's one of the most overlooked films from like 2017.
Yeah. One of the best movies of 2018, First Reformed.
Great movie.
Ethan Hawke should have been nominated for that movie.
He should have.
Game Night.
One of the biggest surprises of that year.
Me too.
Next, I have Ben Affleck's directorial debut, Gone Baby Gone.
That's a wonderful film. You know, one more thing I want to say. If it weren't for him directing that movie, I don't think if it weren't for him directing that movie, I don't think he would have had I don't think his career would have recovered if he hadn't directed that one.
Yeah.
And hello, Owen Buckner. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey. Next is my favorite Pixar film, The Incredibles.
Definitely one of their best.
Where is my super suit?
Next is
Coincidence? I think
not.
No gapes.
Next is the movie that starred the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the first Iron Man.
That's a great movie.
I, Tonya.
I also own that. One of the best from 2017.
Jerry Maguire.
You had me at hello.
Jerry Maguire. Oh my God, I love that movie. Show me the money!
Keanu.
Keanu was so good.
One of the best movies of last year, King of Staten Island.
That's a great movie too.
And speaking of Judd Apatow, Knocked Up.
Knocked Up is another great one.
Next is Leon the Professional.
Definitely one of Luc Besson's best movies.
Malcolm X.
Nice.
Megamind.
Oh yes, Mignon. You have found my movie.
Definitely one of the most underrated DreamWorks animation films.
Did you know Keith David voiced a villain in a Megamind video game?
I actually did not know that.
Next is, hey Jason, you took Manhattan? Guess what? The Muppets did it first.
Yeah, really.
Next is the entire Pirates of the Caribbean box set, all 5 movies.
The first is
Caribbean.
my favorite.
Yes, the first is really like a landmark for these types of movies.
And speaking of Johnny Depp, Public Enemies.
Another great one.
Quite savvy for my taste.
Next is a double feature, the 2004 Punisher and Punisher Warzone.
Nice.
Patton Oswalt loved Warzone.
I also saw The Punisher too, and I thought it was a good movie.
Yeah, we'll get to that and when we get to a certain topic later on.
Okay.
Next is Al Pacino's Oscar-winning role, Sensible Woman.
Great film.
Searching.
One of the best of 2018, and one of the most, I would say it's probably one of the most overlooked films, since not a lot of people are talking about it anymore like they did back then.
Yeah. Talented Mr. Ripley.
That's a great movie, and I also own the film too.
Cool. Next is The Visit.
That's surprisingly good.
I really enjoyed that movie. I know a lot of people were split on that film, and that's fine.
No pun
I
intended.
like this movie.
Yeah, really.
I like this movie. I like that movie though.
War Dogs.
I like that movie too.
One of Todd Phillips' best, next to Old School, The Hangover, and Joker.
Joker is like the masterpiece I've ever seen from Todd Phillips.
Warrior.
One of the most overlooked films from 2011.
Wind River.
Great film too.
Both the Zorro movies with Puss in Boots.
Antonio Banderas. I played Zorro first, then voiced Puss in Boots.
And last, and certainly not least, I have this Batman Dark Knight Returns box set with the original novel.
And RoboCop's actor Peter Weller voicing in it.
Mm-hmm. All right, and that's it for my Blu-rays. And now we're going to get to a few movie reviews, shall we? First up is a movie that we've been anticipating, and after seeing it, yeah, it wasn't great. Wonder Woman 84.
I'm also coming in with that one too, because I also saw the film too, and I'm gonna give my thoughts on it after you finish your thoughts.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of disappointing seeing how much I love the first movie, and the fact that the same director made this movie. But somehow it's like she tried to make this appeal to everyone by making this sequel go full on campy, like with the Richard Donner Superman movies and Sam Raimi Spider-Man films, which I did
Or the
enjoy.
Schumacher Batman movies.
Okay, I wouldn't go that far. But,
I wouldn't go that far either.
I'm just saying only Batman Forever.
Anyways, which I did enjoy, but the problem is the first movie was somewhat grounded in reality, you know, given a demigod who goes into World War I and to face Ares, but still. And yes, it did have silly moments, but they're mostly downplayed to let its dramatic moments sink in. 1984 is a complete opposite, where it did have dramatic moments, but it's mostly fun superhero antics. Plus, I don't know if it's really had to be 2.5 hours long. Like, if you could, like, you could cut out 10 minutes, especially the completely pointless opening flashback, and you'd miss nothing. Now, you might hear this and figure that I hated this movie, which is far from the truth. The cast is good, it does look nice, the effects are decent, and the music was decent, though why Hans Zimmer needed to rehash the scores from Sunshine and Batman vs. Superman is beyond me. So, if you're looking for a faithful sequel to one of the best films of 2017, you'll get it, but you'll just have to face a bunch of pacing and tonal problems. But overall, I still recommend this movie if you have HBO Max or have theaters open near you. So, 7 out of 10 or B. One of the weak DCU movies, but still better than Justice League.
Yeah, really.
I don't call it that. I just call it just Justice League.
I know, but still.
I just get analytical.
Yeah, I know. So as for my thoughts on Wonder Woman 1984, yeah, Owen, that was pointless. That was pointless. Look at what he put. that flashback was completely pointless. Also, why would that kid be in a competition along with adults? Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. I get what they were trying to do with that, but it wasn't really needed. All right, so that's what I was saying. That kind of reminded me of that as well, too. Honestly, So that's for my final thoughts. So that's for my thoughts on the film. It's good, but compared to the first movie, which was groundbreaking, with what it was trying to succeed, it is a disappointment. It's just I wasn't expecting the film to be as better than the first film. I was hoping maybe it would be like as good as the first, as amazing as the first film. And what I got was a film that's good, but very, very flawed. As Soren mentioned, the film is way too long. Like, there's no reason for the film to be like 150 minutes. You could have just cut 15 minutes of the film down, and I really wish they would have cut 15 minutes of the film down because like it's filled with some scenes that just completely go nowhere. Especially when Owen just mentioned the flashback thing and the kid being in the competition along with adults. That really did not serve a purpose whatsoever. Also, another problem with the film is that the pacing is just all over the place. Like, there are times where it goes fast and then it drags a little, and it's just, yeah, the pacing is way off in this film. Also, while I did like some of the visual effects in the film, a lot of them I felt could have used some more work, and so could have the writing, which, as I mentioned, could have used some more work, especially with the dialogue and the tone inconsistencies. Like, make the tone a bit more consistent. But overall, I thought it was a good movie, but compared to the last film, which was groundbreaking, it is kind of disappointing. Good acting, good directing, good music, good cinematography, and good action sequences do save the film from being bad. It's just I just wish the film was a lot better than what it should have been. I also give it a 7 out of 10, or B. Good film, but not great.
However, our next two reviews are definitely worth the watch. First up is Pixar's latest Soul.
I'll talk about that too, since I also saw it.
I saw it too.
To me, this is hands down the best movie of the year, at least until I see more movies this year. The concept of life, death, birth, and everything in between has been done before. In fact, the concept kind of resembles the movie Monkey Bone with Brendan Fraser.
Directed by Henry Selick.
But Pete Docter did what he does best and make something new out of this concept. The animation is probably the best that Pixar has put out, looking at both the realistic real world and the abstract afterlife and before life. The music is also stellar, as is the voice cast. Jamie Foxx, to me, probably gives his second best performance behind Ray Charles, and Tina Fey's spot on as well. When you see this movie, you'll laugh, you'll cry, it'll move you. So what are you waiting for? Stop watching this video, boot up Disney Plus, pirate it if you must, and check this masterpiece out if you can. It'll sure put a smile to your face. So 10 out of 10, A+.
You did a VeggieTales reference.
I laughed, I cried, it moved me, Bob.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that. So I pretty much agree with what Soren absolutely said. This is one of Pixar's best movies. This is up there with, I would put it probably my top 5 favorites. Top 5 favorites up on the list. Maybe top 7. I'm not sure. I'll go as far as top 7. To me, this is the pure definition of an animated masterpiece. When not only is the animation some of the best that Pixar has did, but but unlike Wonder Woman 1984, where the tone was all over the place, the tone here is consistent, and when it's not only focusing on the comedy, which when the humor hits home, it hits home, and I bursted out laughing at the humorous moments. But when it's also a drama, it really hits home too. Like the dramatic moments in the film are felt so legit, even for an animated film. And I was almost in tears towards the end. It was that emotional. The voice acting was terrific. Jamie Foxx was terrific in this movie. And I agree with Soren that this is his second best performance, just behind his performance in Ray Charles, as Ray Charles. And another thing I also loved about the movie was the soundtrack. This has easily the best soundtrack in the musical score of the year so far. If Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross are not nominated for Best Original Score, we got a problem. We got a huge problem on our hands. Oscars, nominate them, please.
It's a toss-up between Soul and Tenet for Best Score for me.
I love the scoring.
I absolutely loved Soul. Jamie Foxx and Tina Fey did a great job voicing the characters.
Yeah, thank you. Mm-hmm. Thank you for mentioning Tina Fey. She was terrific in this movie. Yes, her character starts up as a bit unlikable at first, but you understand why she's like this throughout the whole film.
Well, 22 actually has no gender.
Right.
And Jeannie Terudo, the voice of Android 21 from Dragon Ball FighterZ, voices a minor character in this. The jazz teacher. Her last name is Hispanic.
I think I know which one you're talking about. And excuse me. Another thing I also loved about this movie, the thing that I really loved the most that made it the best movie of the year so far is the message it's trying to go for. This made me feel good about life. This made me feel good about life, and it gave me hope for not only a new era that's about to come, but for the future as well. Pixar, you have done it again. You've made the best animated film of the year, and a film that is definitely a deadlock in my top 3 of 2020. Hell, maybe top 2 if I'm going that far.
Well, don't forget Pete Docter, because he directed it and did a great job.
He did a wonderful job. The directing was absolutely terrific. I'm going to say this right now. Not only is Pete Docter the best animated filmmaker, animation director working today, he's one of the best. I would argue he's one of the top 10 best filmmakers working today as well.
He's also made Monsters, Inc., Up, Inside Out.
All of them are legit classics.
In fact, I'm going to say that Up should have been the first animated film to win Best Picture.
Up definitely. I wouldn't mind if Up won either. I mean, while my favorite film of 2009 was The Hurt Locker, I definitely would have loved to see Up win too. Overall, it's a masterpiece. Soul is an animated masterpiece. It is the most moving, riveting, and thought-provoking movie I've seen this entire year, and it makes you feel good about life too. And the message on life as well was very, very well executed. Without a doubt, Soul gets a 10 out of 10.
I give it an 11 out of 10 because it's right up there with Into the Spider-Verse, Up, Fantastic Mr. Fox, any legit animated classic.
It's definitely up there for sure. And also one more thing I want to mention. This this is the second time. This is the second time that a Pixar animated film has made my number one spot. It happened last year when I saw Toy Story 4, and now it's happened this year with Soul. I'm really loving what Pixar is doing nowadays, and I have to give them huge props for that. Well done, Pete Docter. Well done, Pixar, and dare I say it, well done, Disney.
And,
even though I'm disappointed this didn't go to theaters, I'm at least pleased that I was able to see it. I was able to see it on my computer, and I was able to experience one of the most amazing animated films I've ever seen. Well done, Pete Docter, Pixar, and to everybody involved with the film. Well done.
And as for my updated Pixar ranking, this is now my number 9 favorite Pixar film, between Finding Nemo and Monsters Inc., another Pete Docter film.
Yeah.
Now the only question is, could this actually be the first animated film to win Best Picture? I kind of doubt it. I think it's still going to go to Chicago 7 or something, but which I won't mind.
Also, Nomadland, that stars Frances McDormand, is up for like Best Picture consideration too. I still have not seen the film yet, but I am really looking forward to seeing it because I love Frances McDormand. I love the director behind this, Chloe Zhao. She directed one of the best movies of 2018, which was The Rider, which I also think is one of the most overlooked films of that year too. If you have not seen The Rider, you got to check it out right away. The pacing may turn off some people because it is a slow burn pace film, but if you can handle it, then you're in for one of the most riveting experiences I saw from 2018.
And if this Nomadland does win Best Picture and Best Director, she could be the first Oscar-winning director to direct a Marvel film. Marvel Cinematic Universe film, that is.
Yes, I heard about her directing Internals, and I cannot wait to see how she does with that one.
Chloe Zhao.
Chloe Zhao, that's who I just mentioned. I'm going to be watching Nomadland very, very soon. I'm probably not going to watch it until I get to finish all the other films. Like I still need to watch News of the World. I need to watch that One Night in Miami that I heard unanimous praise about, and then I still need to watch The Father and Minari, and then I'll finally get to Nomadland after that. So you'll hear my thoughts on those films next time on the next episode.
Okay. And as for our third and final review, Carey Mulligan, you may have been robbed of a Best Supporting Actress Oscar for shame, but you better win Best Actress this year, because this was the performance of a career. Promising Young Woman.
I also saw that movie too, and what do you know? I'm going to be joining Soren on this because I also saw the film too, and I got a lot to say. I got some things to say about it.
Besides her performance alone, the film itself is just extraordinary, with one of the best screenplays of the year and possibly the best soundtrack of the year, which will keep you engaged from the opening logos right up until the effective final scene. Those looking for a stylized woman empowerment tale should see this ASAP, because this is one of the best movies of the year, which I'm giving a 10 out of 10 or an A+.
All right, so for my thoughts on the film, I agree with everything that Soren says. This is one of the best movies of the year. Not only does Carey Mulligan give out one of the best performances of the year too. Seriously, if she's not nominated for Best Actress, it'll be a crime against humanity. She is that good.
Yeah.
She and Seyfried would better be Oscar contenders.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, so far my 5 picks for Best Actress would be Carey Mulligan, Sydney Flanagan, which I haven't seen, Never Rarely, Sometimes Always, but
you got
still.
to, man.
Elizabeth Moss for The Invisible Man, which she's not going to get nominated for sure. Neither is Betty Gilpin for The Hunt, and Frances McDormand, which I hear unanimous praise for Nomadland. But
Like I said, I'll talk about that film next time when I see it. After I see it.
anyways, go on.
Carey Mulligan gives out the best performance of the year. And you know, what's also surprising about this movie is how funny it is, too. I mean, think about it. The story alone is like screams like drama, yet I was surprised with how much of good humor there was in it. Good, sharp humor. I mean, besides the fact that it's also a dark comedy, it's just the tone is also consistent. Like it does a very wonderful job combining like comedy and drama and thriller together too. All of them, I should say. The acting is great, especially from Carey Mulligan, who easily gives out one of the best performances of the year. She better be nominated for Best Actress, or she better be nominated for Best Actress. Seriously. The story is fantastic. It has one of the best screenplays of the year by Emerald Fennell, who, by the way, not only wrote one of the best screenplays of the year, but also had one of the best directing I've ever seen put to film this entire year. How she directs the film, especially with its story and characters, it's just absolutely phenomenal. She better get some recognition for this, because this is such a promising director with a promising future ahead of her. She did a wonderful job directing and writing this movie. The soundtrack is amazing. It's beautifully shot. The editing is terrific. It's very well paced throughout. And what I also loved about this movie was how unpredictable it was. Like when there was some moments which I thought, okay, are they gonna go that way? They take a different turn and it left me on the edge of my seat, like hoping for the best. Hoping for the best. This was literally me the entire time. I was like, oh God, I'm hoping for the best. And no spoilers, by the way. I do not want to spoil the film whatsoever. This film also had, although it may divide a lot of people, this had one of the best endings I've ever seen put to film this entire year. I will not spoil what happens because you guys really need to see this movie, but it's an ending that's going to probably divide a lot of people. But how Emerald Fennell wrote and directed this ending, she deserves, you know what? Hats off to her for this. Seriously, hats off to her. She directed such a phenomenal movie and a phenomenal ending, too. I love this movie. Promising Young Woman is one of the most well-acted, powerful, entertaining, and riveting and thought-provoking films I've seen this entire year. Without it, and of course, this is the second time that I'm doing this again, but fuck it. It gets a 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. One of the best films of 2020. And that's it for my thoughts. All I can say is I cannot wait to see what Emerald Fennell does next.
And you could say that Carey Mulligan is a promising young woman to win the Oscar.
Yeah,
Sorry, that was bad.
It's all right. It's all right.
Anyways, now we're going to do a bit of a movie retrospective, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
Now, as you may know, Black Widow's currently scheduled to come out in a couple months, so I decided that now's the perfect time to look at all the Marvel films in this episode, between this episode and next episode. So here's how I'm gonna do it. this episode, I'm gonna go over all the Marvel flicks pre-MCU, and the next episode, I'm gonna do Iron Man up to all the Marvel films from Iron Man to the New Mutants. Now, the first movie I'm gonna go over is a movie that a lot of you are gonna be shocked that this is technically a Marvel film, and in fact, technically, this is the first Marvel film period outside the Captain America serials, and it's considered one of the most cheesy and all-out worst movies of all time. Howard the Duck.
Oh my god.
Okay, yeah. So I will say that even though the effects are okay, my biggest problem with this movie is that it's a bit of a generic sci-fi movie. I mean, this alien Howard the Duck coming down to Earth and trying to get back while also hooking up with our culture, and also this young human woman, which is kind of
God.
Plus, there are a lot of jokes that are a bit too adult for a PG rated movie. I mean, duck tits. Seriously? What do you two have to say about it?
At least Marvel got the last laugh by having Howard the Duck make a proper appearance in the Guardians of the Galaxy films.
Yeah, really.
And the upside to this is this movie bombed so hard that George Lucas was forced to sell his animation division to Disney, and thus Pixar was founded.
So that's one thing we could give Howard the Duck credit for.
Next up is The Punisher with Dolph Lundgren. It was just in my opinion. I'd barely recommend this movie if you're looking for a cheesy 80s action movie, but if you're looking for a true Punisher film, we'll get to it later on.
I think Dolph Lundgren was better as Ivan Drago from the Rocky franchise.
I must punish you.
I must break you.
Eat it. Go for it. I was scoring from the Smelly Mystery Game.
Next up is Captain America from 1990.
Oh my god.
Yeah, this was pretty bad too.
Oh my god.
And to think that
Mr. President, thanks.
And to think that he's actually the son of J.D. Salinger. That's right. The son of the Catcher in the Rye writer played Captain America in this movie.
Chris Evans does a much better job playing him, in my opinion.
Yeah, he really does. And I haven't seen the Captain America serials from the 40s, nor the two TV movies from the 70s. But I can imagine that this is far worse than those two.
Yeah.
Next up is Fantastic Four.
Oh my god, the 1994 one.
Now,
Produced by Roger Corman.
Now, a lot of you may not have heard of this movie, and do you want to know why? Because it wasn't actually released.
And is only shown on bootlegs, and you can only find it for free on the internet. And I would say that and Fan Four Stick are the only Fantastic Four movies I wouldn't watch ever again.
Yeah, really. Next up is the first good Marvel movie, Blade.
I really like that movie a lot.
Did you know that there was an alternate ending where Deacon Frost turns into La Magra, but it had to be replaced because the effects at the time were considered abysmal and that all the blood resembled red jello?
Yeah, and plus, you look at the actual blood that was shown in the real climax, and yeah, it was the late 90s.
But there was a tease for Morbius appearing in a future sequel in another alternate ending.
Really?
Yes!
I actually did not know that.
Yes, because you see Morbius' shadow, and that must have mean that if Stephen Norrington directed Blade 2, then he could have had Morbius as the villain.
That is true. Yeah.
Then again, when the Blade rights were changed to Marvel and Disney, Morbius Morbius went on to Sony. Went on to Sony. What?
Because he's a Spider-Man related character.
Yeah. And the trailer for that Morbius movie looks good. We'll just have to see how it turns out this coming October or whenever it's actually released.
And it's fitting because vampire movies actually sell better if they're released in October.
Yeah, because Halloween and stuff.
Yes. I've been wanting to see Morbius even before the pandemic began.
Yeah. Alright, next up on this marathon is Bryan Singer's first X-Men movie.
I don't like Singer's actions, but I do love the film anyway.
Me too.
Yeah.
Even though there
like
are
I said,
some...
like I said, I'm sorry to interrupt. Like I said, there is such a thing as like separating art from the artist most of the time.
Yeah. Even though there are some dated aspects from the 2000s, it's still worth checking out with its acting by Hugh Jackman, Ian McKellen, Patrick Stewart, as well as its themes of prejudice with the mutants.
And there was a deleted scene in the movie that that Jean was told by Charles Xavier that she accidentally showed her powers. And as a result, that explains why that Senator Kelly is aware that there are mutants inside. Yes.
Anyways, next up is the movie that put Guillermo del Toro on the map, Blade 2.
I was just about to mention that.
Can you blush?
And actually, before you continue talking about that, I should also mention that Guillermo del Toro also, I think another reason is because Guillermo del Toro also scored a success in 2001 with The Devil's Backbone, which is a fantastic movie.
And he also won. And his Shape of Water is actually the first fantasy film to win Best Picture.
And it deserves it.
And Ron Perlman's in Blade 2 as well.
As Dieter Reinhardt, the half-son of Dracula.
And they would soon later collaborate 2 years later with the Hellboy movies.
Yes, and it also had Thomas Kretschmann and Chris Christopherson, as in the first one. And in my opinion, it was pretty good.
All right, next up on this marathon is the first really successful Marvel movie, as in $800 million or so. Sam Raimi's first Spider-Man movie.
That's my grandfather's favorite of the Raimi trilogy because he liked Cliff Robertson And he wasn't a fan of Doc Ock's tentacles in the second movie, and he didn't like Venom because he thought he was too creepy.
Now again, as with the first X-Men movie, there are some dated aspects, but the performances from Tobey Maguire, Willem Dafoe, as well as some iconic sequences like with the upside down kiss with Mary Jane.
Don't forget J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, and that meme that always keeps popping up so many times with that laugh.
That was in the second movie, actually.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But first, we're gonna go to a movie that has gotten a bit of backlash throughout this theatrical release, but it's only at when the director's cut was released that it gained a bit of a cult following. Daredevil.
Oh yeah.
I really liked the director's cut, and it was a bit of a crime that Fox ordered Mark Steven Johnson to cut out certain scenes and replace them with something else, and not to mention that they reduced the rating from R to PG-13, and it felt like an incoherent mess with the theatrical cut. Skip it, just get the director's cut, and if you pick a Blu-ray of Daredevil, the director's cut is the only version you'll get on Blu-ray.
Yeah, exactly. Like when that was released when the theatrical cut was released in 2003. This is one of those bad cases of studio interference. We've seen that happen so many times before, and this isn't the only time that Fox also interfered with the production. In 1992, when David Fincher directed Alien 3, the studio interfered, which caused Alien 3 to be a mess.
Yeah, it's my least favorite Alien film. At least Resurrection made me laugh.
I still think Resurrection is worse, but that's just me.
I've only seen the director's cut of Daredevil, and as for now, I intend to keep it that way.
Yeah, the director's cut of the film is much better.
Next up is a movie that did get its critical acclaim from it right up. Anyways, next up is X2 X-Men United.
Great movie.
To me,
Kelly Hu was Lady Deathstrike, and if you don't know, she played Cassandra in The Scorpion King, voiced the infamous Devora character from Mortal Kombat, and Stacey Hirano from Phineas and Ferb. And Alan Cumming did a great job as Nightcrawler, and he was supposed to play him again in X-Men The Last Stand, but couldn't do it because he felt uncomfortable with the makeup. But he did voice him in a tie-in game. There was also a tie-in game released during X2's release called Wolverine's Revenge, with Wolverine voiced by Mark Hamill.
To me, X2 does what a sequel does, and expands on the ideas explored in the first movie, while also giving in a bit of drama, especially with the X-Men and the Brotherhood being forced to work together to stop a common threat. And again, Alan Cumming did great as Nightcrawler, and that opening sequence at the White House, that's probably the best scene in the entire original X-Men trilogy. Next
Don't
is
get started on John Ottoman's breathtaking X-Men theme song.
Oh yeah.
Next movie is a movie that is a bit polarizing, but both Chris and I find it to be pretty underrated. And that is Ang Lee's adaptation of Hulk.
Yeah, I thought it was all right.
Well, it was interesting because it did the unconventional before certain films like the Dark Knight trilogy and Logan made it cool. for example, it's more focused on drama, which I appreciate, and it had some good character development. I love the cinematography, and that it shows how much trauma can be for emotions. And they even had a video game tie-in, which takes place after the movie. And Nick, I think you'll like the video game better than the movie because it's just the Hulk smashing things, and it has the leader as the antagonist and other classic Hulk villains in it.
I heard about the game. Problem is, I don't have a GameCube anymore.
You can just watch the cutscenes.
Okay.
Now, if you ask me which one I like better, this one or The Incredible Hulk, it's kind of hard to say because they're both very different movies. This being an emotional drama, and the other one being just flat out action.
I personally like Ang Lee's Hulk better over the MCU one.
I understand. Alright, so 2004 has got to be one of the best years in comic book movies. First there was the aforementioned Incredibles movie, then there was Hellboy, and then there's two of the best pre-MCU Marvel movies, The Punisher and Spider-Man 2.
Well, The Punisher had great acting from Thomas Jane, Rebecca Romijn, and it was quite dark, but still good. And I think it's my personal favorite of the Punisher films. They even have an extended cut.
And Thomas Jane went on to reprise his role in a short film, Dirty Laundry.
As well as the 2005 video game.
Yeah.
And speaking of Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man, yes, Owen, I also agree Spider-Man 2 was awesome.
I'd say that both Spider-Man 2 and The Incredibles should have been nominated for Best Picture, if only the Academy had stuck with its 10 movie slot thingy like they did in the beginning and went on to do from 2009 onwards.
At least Spider-Man 2 won Best Visual Effects because the effects are an improvement over the 2002 film.
I totally agree with that.
Yes, not to mention that the mechanics for Dr. Octopus's arms look more convincing than a flying goblin with pumpkins bombs.
That was amazing.
And is also home for some of the best quotes of the trilogy, such as Pizza Time or J. Jonah Jameson laughing away. And the whole subreddit, Raimi Memes, has a lot of Pizza Time memes, and it gets the respect it deserves. And I honestly find it a little overpraised because there were some flaws. For example, there was some angst for Peter Parker and Mary Jane, and you don't see him as Spider-Man as much, but you do in the game, which has other villains like Rhino, Mysterio.
I still love Spider-Man 2 though. And that hospital scene, I agree, Owen. Like, wow.
Yeah. And I'm just gonna say it. Alfred Molina should have been nominated for the Oscar.
I totally agree with you on that.
At least he's returning for the Far From Home sequel.
I'm excited for that.
We'll be interested to see how they're gonna pull it off. Whether it's gonna be gonna be the next Spider-Verse or something else.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how they do with this one.
Next up is Blade Trinity.
Oh my god.
Well, the executives, the original story idea for Blade Trinity is that it was going to be set in the future, a dystopian future where vampires took over the world and Blade has to stop their leader. Well, in David S. Goyer's version, it just has Blade team up with the Night Stalkers and The Fiend Dracula. And I actually liked Ryan Reynolds' Hannibal King because had he not been cast as Hannibal King, then he wouldn't have been given the opportunity to play Deadpool whatsoever.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you can tell by his performance that he just couldn't wait to play Deadpool.
And there was also an alternate ending where the Night Stalkers encounter werewolves. They even have merchandise of the werewolf jacket sold on eBay.
And another big problem I have is that Blade himself is barely in it. And that's probably because Wesley Snipes and the director did not get along behind the scenes.
Oh no, FilmBrony went into detail with what happened when he did a bad movie beatdown episode of Blade Trinity. I highly recommend you guys watch that one.
And Patton Oswalt said that Wesley Snipes was smoking too much weed and he was wearing a tag name that reads Blade, and as a result, Ryan Reynolds' character says, "He doesn't like me, does he?"
I mean, I do agree with Wesley Snipes that David S. Goyer does deserve some of the blame for how awful the film was, but I also think it is also Wesley Snipes' fault because of the fact that he didn't even want to show up for the film, which is why you don't see Blade that much throughout the whole film. So sorry, Wesley, but it's kind of your fault too. Just saying.
Fun fact: Jessica Biel was able to shoot an arrow directly at a camera, and that's quite amazing.
Oh yeah, I remember that, and that was like one of the best things about it. I'll say that.
At least Goyer went on to redeem himself with
writing the Dark Knight trilogy,
and also co-writing Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman, which is among one of my personal favorites.
Okay.
Next up is, to me, one of the most unnecessary spin-offs of all time, Elektra.
Elektra sucked!
Jennifer Garner only did this because of contractual obligations.
Yeah.
It's also the first time that Will Yun Lee got to play in a Marvel-related film. It's also set in Japan. He would later be in The Wolverine. Not to mention that Kerry Tagawa, who's a great actor, his character is named Master Roshi, not to be confused with the Dragon Ball character.
And at least the guy who played Stick was okay, Terrence Stamp.
And I like Tattoo's visual effects where the animals come out of his back and they go right in. They even had a promotional trailer for Fantastic Four, the Tim Story one, for every screening of Elektra.
Which is the very next movie in our marathon, Fantastic Four. Personally, I have a soft spot for these movies, probably because I watched them a lot when I was a kid.
Yeah, and in my opinion, Tim Story is the best director of the Fantastic Four because he knows the dysfunctional family dynamic. Not to mention that Michael Chiklis and Chris Evans did such great jobs as the Thing and the Human Torch, and there's some bonus points for helping Chris Evans graduate for the role of Captain America, and they even had a tie-in video game where you play as all four with the original actors and Joey McMahon as Doctor Doom again, and you see them team up with Nick Fury and defeat other villains such as Dragon Man, Annihilus, voiced by Lex Lang. You know, I voiced Dr. Cortex.
Yeah. I mean, Yeah, I mean, I also have a soft spot for this movie too. I will admit, it's one of my biggest guilty pleasures. I mean, it's not great. It's very, very flawed, but compared to
Josh Trank's version,
that abomination from 2015, I'd rather watch that film any day over the 2015 abomination.
they even have an extended cut you can find on DVDs.
Huh.
And I like making these inside jokes based off of them because they're Marvel's first family, and compared to Spider-Man, in my opinion, they just don't get enough credit.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that.
Next up is a pretty big disappointment, especially since Bryan Singer went on to direct
Superman Returns.
which was and
Wrong!
and replaced with Rush Hour's Brett Ratner, thus giving us X-Men: The Last Stand.
Matthew Vaughn was originally attached to direct it, but had to drop out. But he was the reason why Kelsey Grammer was cast as Beast.
Who was magnificent in the role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's what I'll say about it. It's now the movie has two storylines: the Dark
Cure
Phoenix
storyline and the Dark Phoenix storyline.
The Dark Phoenix storyline was hella rust, but the other storyline with Immune Cure was actually pretty good, in my
opinion. With the Cure storyline, it scared me at first because I live with autism, and I don't believe that autism should be cured.
Right. And as for my take on X-Men 3: The Last Stand, it's fine. The acting is good. The musical score is great, and it's very well shot, and there is some good action in it. And I do agree with Soren that the other subplot, not the Dark Phoenix subplot, the other subplot was actually pretty good. I just wish the Dark Phoenix subplot was handled a lot better.
Well, at least it was handled better than Dark Phoenix, the movie.
One of the most depressing films I've ever seen in my life.
Dark Phoenix is one of the few movies that Nick and I actually disagree with, but we'll get to it next episode.
Yeah.
Now for the final three Marvel movies, and they all came out in 2007. First up is one of my this and the sequel are my guilty pleasures. This and the sequel are my guilty pleasures. Ghost
Nicolas
Rider.
Cage and Ghost Rider.
Okay, here's what I'll say. Is this movie great? No, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't enjoy it. I mean, seeing Nick Cage play this
Stuntman skeleton?
Yeah, with the flames bursting out of his head, beating the shit out of demons. How can you not enjoy that?
I will admit that was pretty cool.
It was also a tribute to Easy Rider because Peter Fonda is involved in both movies and they both have motorcycles.
Yeah.
And you can't go wrong with Sam Elliott. He also did a great job as General Ross in Ang Lee's Hulk.
He did.
Yeah, I will agree with you on that.
Though I will say, his best performance is either in Big Lebowski or A Star Is Born.
The dude.
Yeah.
Next up is one of the most disappointing films of the 2000s.
Despite its box office intake.
Yep. Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3.
Sam Raimi himself was unsatisfied because Avi Arad pressured him to have Venom as a third villain rather than Vulture, who would have been played by John Malkovich.
Yeah, and I can't really blame him on that. Although I don't hate the movie as much as a lot of people do, I do agree that the film is a mess.
Now, do I hate this movie? No. There are some good aspects about it, like the scene where Sandman first emerges from the lab.
My
That was
pal
good.
Richard Epcar voices Sandman in a few Marvel video games, and
Nice.
I like how some of the scenes become iconic in a way, as in, "Give me rent. You'll get your rent when you fix this damn door!"
Nice. And I agree, Owen. John Malkovich would have been awesome. Would have been awesome as Vulture, actually, as well. I agree with Owen.
And last and not least is Tim Story's last Fantastic Four movie, Rise of the Silver Surfer.
It was interesting, and
Yeah.
I liked the new character, General Hager. Originally, it was going to be Nick Fury, but since Fox didn't want to pay Marvel again, they created a new character.
Yeah.
And some might find it disappointing because Galactus resembled a giant tornado than the Galactus from the comics.
Yeah.
And it would have been awesome if Tony Jay was still alive and got to voice Galactus in that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on the positive side, you have the CGI Silver Surfer, played by Doug Jones, but dubbed over by Lawrence Fishburne.
Oh
Had
yeah.
the film not has been as financially unproductive compared to the first Fantastic Four movie, then we would have had a third Tim Story Fantastic Four movie and a Silver Surfer spin-off, which have shown Galactus' true form.
And I haven't heard that much about the Fantastic Four 3, whatever you call it. But
Well, they would
apparently,
have had villains like the Puppet Master or the Mole Man or Annihilus.
yeah, and
Yeah.
reportedly Franklin Richards was supposed to first appear in Fantastic Four 3.
As well as Black Panther, who would have been played by Djimon Hounsou, and Djimon Hounsou and Kerry Washington would both be involved in the Black Panther cartoon. How's that for a coincidence?
Yeah. Except. Oh wait, I'm thinking of one of the other Washingtons. Never mind.
Well, that's it for this Marvel movie retrospective. Stay tuned for next episode where we go over all the Marvel movies from 2008 up until the most recent New Mutants. But next topic, we were originally going to go over this last episode, but since Nick hasn't seen Mank, then we kind of decided to delay it to this episode. And that is ranking David Fincher movies from worst to best. Now, as stated before, this first movie, number 11, was not his fault. And if it weren't for that movie, he would have had a pitch perfect career. Number 11 is Alien 3.
Yeah. Like I said, it wasn't a good movie, but it really wasn't his fault. It was the studio's fault.
I think
As I said before, this is one of the bad cases of studio interference.
I agree.
Yeah.
And the assembly cut is better, in my opinion.
Now, as for number 10, is his most recent movie, Mank. David Fincher should win his. David Fincher better win the Oscar for this movie because he should have won 10 years before with another movie we'll get to later.
And his father posthumously had written the script.
Number 9 is his remake of A Girl with a Dragon Tattoo.
That's a good one.
Yep.
Number
Rooney
8.
Mara was excellent in it.
Yes.
And either she or Tilda Swinton should have won the Oscar over Meryl Streep.
Yeah, the Iron. Okay, let me give my quick thoughts on the Iron Lady. It was Meryl Streep is great in the film. Don't get me wrong, but the movie was not really that Oscar worthy.
Yeah, either Tilda Swinton or Rooney Mara should have won. Preferably Tilda Swinton.
Yeah,
But anyways, number 8 is Benjamin Button.
that's a great movie.
Number 7 is his most probably his most underlooked film, Panic Room.
That's
It
also a good
had
one.
it had a pre-Twilight Kristen Stewart, post Silence of the Lambs Jodie Foster, Jared Leto, who also worked with Fincher in Fight Club. Did you know that Davey Chase, who voiced Lilo from Lilo and Stitch, was originally going to play the young girl in that film?
I actually did not know that.
Same for Hayden Panettiere.
Oh yeah,
Anyways, number 6 is The Game with Michael Douglas.
that's a very good one.
Number 5 is Zodiac. Number
Zodiac,
4,
phenomenal.
Number 4, The Social Network.
Andrew Garfield, Jesse Eisenberg, and Justin Timberlake did a great job with their performances. And since I'm from Mass, I find that film a cornerstone of New England.
And it should have won Best Picture.
Either that, Inception, or Toy Story 3. And David Fincher should have won the Oscar over Tom Cat Hooper.
Up yours, Harvey Wienerstein.
Number 3, Gone Girl.
My dad actually liked that one. And Reese Witherspoon produced it. Did you know that?
Yes.
Which is why in Wild she has a book of Gone Girl.
And
Yes.
Rosamund Pike and Ben Affleck did great performances.
And the funny thing is, Rosamund Pike and Reese Witherspoon both competed for Best Actress that year, only to lose to Julianne Moore, which should have gone to Rosamund Pike, in my opinion.
I did see Still Alice. I did see Still Alice, by the way, which Julianne Moore won, and I absolutely love that movie. Julianne Moore is absolutely terrific in that film.
I'll have to see it when I get to it.
Okay.
Number two is the movie we're not supposed to talk about, but like I said before, rules are meant to be broken. Number 2 is Fight Club.
Impressive, and
Nice.
Initially it had mixed reviews and didn't do well at the box office, but it has made a cultural impact, and Edward Norton did a great job as a narrator. Tyler Durden's actor Brad Pitt did a great job. Helena Bonham Carter, Jared Leto, and Meatloaf did a great job for the supporting cast. And I think Tyler Durden would be a great Mortal Kombat guest fighter, given his unfortunate beliefs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And number 1 is the movie that saved his career, Seven.
Wow.
Seven was phenomenal.
What's in the box? What's in the box? It was amazing. Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman, and Art Lee Remney, and they did a great job. And there were multiple alternate endings to that. Did you know that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And my dad thought that one of the alternate endings is better than the theatrical ending.
Really?
Yes. I was personally surprised that the sloth victim made it.
Yeah, me too, given his state.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
let's not get started with the David Bowie song at the end credits, which is so good.
Yeah.
And they didn't even reveal the name of the John Doe's actor until the end credits.
Kevin Spacey.
Yes.
Now, I know that he won that year for The Usual Suspects, but he deserved a second nomination for Best Supporting Actor.
I just don't approve of his actions, but...
No, I don't either.
Again,
but like I said,
separating the art from the artist.
Separate art from the artist.
Correct.
Which is why American Beauty is one of my all-time favorite movies.
Yeah. Anyways, Nick, what's your ranking?
Okay, well, my worst number 11 is Owen. Yeah. Listen to this. What's crazy is that he didn't even have to act for that role. That is crazy. Anyway, for the ranking, number 11, the worst one without a doubt, Alien 3. Although, like I said, it wasn't his fault; it was more the studio's fault. Number 10, The Game. Number 10, The Game, with Michael Douglas. Number 9, Panic Room. Number 8, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Number 7, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. Number 6, the recent Mank. Number 5, Zodiac. Number 4, Gone Girl. Number 3, Fight Club. Number 2, Seven. And my favorite of the David Fincher films, The Social Network.
My personal favorites for the list, the bottom is Alien 3. Then the other ones, I don't have a good ranking, but the ones I have seen are good ranking. I would rank 7 as 2, and we're not supposed to talk about this, Fight Club as number 1.
Now, this is the reason why this is going to be a special episode, because we're going to have 2 very special rankings. Now, first one, we're gonna fill up a tier list. So, for the first time in FilmBrony podcast history. So now let me just share screen here so that everyone can see it.
Okay.
Okay, can anyone see this?
Let me add that to the stream. Hold on. There we go.
So there it is. All of the movies, all the Best Picture winners from Wings all the way up to the recent Parasite. Don't ask why that and Green Book are listed here twice, but regardless. Now for us, how we rank this movie is going to be a bit now I know that most tier lists have like a S to F ranking or a 10 to 1 ranking, but personally,
JonTron has a Super Saiyan Goku ranking at the top.
Oh yeah.
Now since some of these movies, I'd personally rank a 10 out of 10 or an A+, not all of them, but a good number of them. I've decided to put in this special thing instead. So our first one is completely undeserved. Why did it even win? The next one is it's not bad, but some movies are way better. The next one's kind of the same, except a bit better than the last one. This next one definitely deserved. It's a movie that you wouldn't question the Academy's decision, but you personally think that 1 or 2 movies are better. But the top one is should have won at the red carpet. Complete masterpiece, no competition. All right, so first up is the very first one, Wings. Since this was the first one to win, and there's not really much competition from 1927, I'm gonna put it right up at the top. Even though my personal favorite movie that year was Metropolis, I'm not gonna count it since the cut we see today wasn't shown in 1927. It wasn't until 2010 that it was fully restored for the Blu-ray release. Next up is the movie that everyone has said is the worst movie to win Best Picture, but even though I didn't like it, it's still not. Even though I didn't like it, I've seen worse. So I'd put it in the air. I don't know, probably because there weren't much movies that year. Next up, All Quiet on the Western Front. This is a really good pre-era war movie. Probably that generation's 1927 in terms of its World War One setting. So let me just put it up there. Next up is Cimarron. Yeah, I wasn't really a big fan of this one. I was just so bored with it, so I'm just gonna put it down there in the undeserved. Grand Hotel. I thought this was pretty good. Not exactly great, but good. So I'm gonna put it right there. Cavalcade is the same thing as Cimarron. It was way boring. It only didn't deserve it. Next up is It Happened One Night. This is an absolute masterpiece, in my opinion. I think what's his name is becoming one of my favorite directors.
Frank Capra.
Yeah, he directed this one, and another one we'll get to later. Next up is Mutiny on the Bounty. Personally, I didn't expect to like this one as much as I did. It's really well paced. The acting's really good, especially from Clark Gable and Charles Laughton. Charles Laughton should have won an Oscar for this one, in my opinion. So let me just put it in the definitely deserved section. The Great Ziegfeld, it was okay, but it's way too long. It should have been cut down to like 2 hours, so I'm gonna place it here. The Life of Emile Zola was pretty good, minus some pacing problems. So there. You Can't Take It With You, another Frank Capra movie. Again, I didn't expect to like this as much as I did. So there. Gone with the Wind. This is an absolute masterpiece.
I agree.
I love that movie too.
And to think that 1939 was one of the best years for film. I mean, you had Gone with the Wind, you had Wizard of Oz, Wuthering Heights. There was also Stagecoach, and some other movies that I haven't seen, but I bet are really good. So, yeah, it deserves the ranking here.
JonTron made a laundry joke about this. Frankly, my dear, I separate the whites from the colors.
Next up is, sadly, the only Hitchcock film to win Best Picture, Rebecca.
I know you're going to talk about. I know you're going to talk about the other Rebecca in a little bit when we get to the worst
In
stuff.
my opinion, it felt like a snub towards Citizen Kane because
actually it didn't beat that. The next movie did.
Sorry.
And it was either that or Grapes of Wrath that year, which John Ford did win the Oscar for that. And no, we're not talking about the VeggieTales short Grapes of Wrath. Just so you know.
Right.
The original book.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Next up is the movie that beat Citizen Kane, How Green Was My Valley. And yes, while it did beat Citizen Kane, it's still a really good movie on its own. But since it since it beat arguably the greatest movie of all time, I'm just gonna place it in the middle tier. Mr. Minifer, I thought was pretty good. Casablanca, on the other hand, is a well-rounded classic, so
Yes.
it deserves the ranking it gets.
It was considered average at first, but as time went on, it's considered one of the best films ever.
Okay,
And
yeah.
it definitely deserves to be called one of the best films ever because that film is a masterpiece, not just in filmmaking, but in storytelling.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Going My Way was, yeah. The Lost Weekend was really good. The Best Years of Our Lives, this is so underrated. This is underrated in my opinion. Even though I will say my favorite movie of that year was It's a Wonderful Life, so that's why it gets the definitely deserved tier there.
That angel did get its wings, though.
He sure did.
Sure did.
Gentleman's Agreement. It was okay. My biggest problem with it is that it kind of told a lot of its story beats instead of shown visually. So that's why it gets the I don't know section. Now we have Hamlet, the one with Laurence Olivier.
Laurence Olivier.
Laurence Olivier.
Yes. It was, again, it was pretty average. It was pretty much just a film version of the stage show. I haven't seen Treasure of the Sierra Madre, but I've heard that was way better. So, actually, yeah. All the King's Men. Really good movie. So it gets a definitely deserved section. Now, the remake from 2006 was, kind of disappointing given the cast, including Sean Penn and the film's director, who did write the screenplay for Schindler's List.
Which again, we're gonna mention later. We're gonna mention later is one of the greatest movies I've ever seen.
All About Eve. This is a really good movie. Next is An American in Paris, which is a really entertaining musical. Greatest Show on Earth. Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of this one. Either High Noon or Singing in the Rain should have won. Now, From Here to Eternity. Okay. This is one of the few movies that Nick and I actually disagree on. I personally didn't really like it. He thought it was really good. So,
I think it's a masterpiece.
You know what? Just to be fair, I'll just put it here. On the Water Hunt.
Okay.
Really good movie.
I love that movie. It's a classic.
This is Marlon Brando's one of his best performances. Either that or The Godfather is his best.
Yeah.
Brando, Olivier, and Connery are the acting inspirations from my pal Richard Epcar.
Nice.
Mario was very entertaining in my opinion. Around the World in 80 Days was again pretty average, but it's a 2-hour adventure stretched out to 3 hours, which was pretty unnecessary. So
that's just stupid. Like padding out the runtime like that.
At least the Jackie Chan version had a shorter running time.
I haven't seen that particular one, but
I heard it wasn't good.
1956, there was a giant. There was The King and the Ten Commandments. Either one of those films should have beaten it.
Yeah.
Now we have Bridge on the River Kwai. This is a masterpiece. So
it is.
Gigi was a pretty decent musical. I thought it was a better version of another movie we'll get to later. Okay, Ben-Hur. Enough said.
Amazing.
Yeah, really.
It won 11 Oscars alongside the future movies Titanic and Return of the King.
Yeah.
Ben-Hur deserved all 11 of its Oscars because it is a masterpiece.
In fact, it should have won It's even won the only Oscar it lost to Best Screenplay, Best Adapted Screenplay. Therefore, it would have won 12 Oscars.
Yeah, really.
Next up, The Apartment. Really liked it.
I love that movie too.
West Side Story. This is a really good musical version of Romeo and Juliet. And Spielberg, if you dare tarnish that remake, I swear.
Please don't let the remake be bad. Please.
Well, given that Spielberg is a great director, I'm sure it'll turn out fine.
And like I said, I read what the plot synopsis for the remake of West Side Story is going to be. They're going to focus more on the Broadway musical than the movie.
Yeah,
I'm
still pretty skeptical about it because,
I'm hoping it's good. I'm hoping it's good. There's a part of me that is kind of skeptical, but I'm just hoping it's at least good.
Yeah. Next up is Lawrence of Arabia. Originally, I was pretty indifferent to it, but upon further rewatch, I came to appreciate it.
It had inspired Genndy Tartakovsky's visual style for his Clone Wars and Samurai Jack cartoons.
Yeah, it did.
Now, I'm putting it in this tier because I haven't seen To Kill a Mockingbird, but I've heard that was just magnificent. It's one of my dad's favorite movies,
loved
too.
It.
To Kill a Mockingbird is a wonderful film. And best of all, that film had one of the best musical scores of all time.
It did.
I had to watch that at school to help understand that what legal affairs is like.
Yeah.
Okay, now for Tom Jones. Yeah, I wasn't a really big fan of it. Totally didn't deserve the Oscar. My pick wasn't even nominated. 8.5.
That's a great movie, and it really should have been nominated.
Now I have My Fair Lady. I'm sorry to say, folks, I was not a big fan of this one. I thought it was way too long. The main guy was extremely unlikable, and either Dr. Strangelove or Mary Poppins should have won over it.
I'm Mary Poppins, yo!
Sound of Music, it deserves the top spot. It's really uplifting and with really good music, too.
That and Moulin Rouge are two of my favorite musical films.
Man for All Seasons, a pretty decent drama in the heat of the night. A really iconic crime drama, even though my personal favorite movie of '67 was The Graduate. But that's not taken away from In the Heat of the Night. They call me Mr. Tibbs.
They call me Mr. Pig!
Now I have Oliver.
Mrs. Robinson, you're trying to seduce me.
Now I have Oliver. Now I did enjoy this one, but I felt like there are other Oliver Twist adaptations that are way better, such as the David Lean one and the Roman Polanski one, which I felt to be underrated. So, plus it did win over 2001: A Space Odyssey, which is nah.
That was a bad choice.
Yeah, Kubrick should have. I feel sad for Kubrick.
So do I.
At least he won Best Visual Effects for 2001. At least technically, he's still an Oscar winner.
Yeah, there's that, but still, that film is like a sci-fi classic for what it stood out to be.
Now we have Midnight Cowboy, which was the only X-rated film to win Best Picture until it got re-rated to R. Either this one or Butch Cassidy are my favorite movies of '69. Now we have Patton. Really good. I even liked it more the second time. Now we have The French Connection, which I'm putting it here because there are other movies that year that are I kind of preferred, such as A Clockwork Orange.
Personally, I feel the Last Picture Show should have got it.
Now we have The Godfather. Enough said.
Enough
It's a
said.
masterpiece. It is a
I got
masterpiece.
enough of that you can't refuse.
Now we have The Sting. Now I know that people are angry that I won against The Exorcist, but personally, this is a really deserving Best Picture winner, so it gets the definitely deserved here.
It was referenced in the Office episode The Sting.
Now we have The Godfather Part 2. I'm putting it in the definitely deserved section because there was also Chinatown, which I haven't seen, but is pretty iconic.
I could see that. For me, though, The Godfather Part 2 is like one of the best sequels ever made.
And in a way, it's also a prequel.
Yeah. Al Pacino should have won 3 Oscars for Scent of a Woman. Supporting actor for The Godfather, Best Actor for Serpico. I haven't seen that one, but I've heard he's magnificent in it. And Best Actor for The Godfather Part 2.
Yeah.
For me, 92's Best Actor winner wasn't even nominated. That's Harvey Keitel for Bad Lieutenant.
Well, the reason why was because of the NC-17 rating.
Which again, the Academy is so biased against NC-17 rated movies.
Yeah, I know. It's just come on.
I mean, why do you think that Blue is a Woman's Color got snubbed, as well as its 2 leads for supporting actors and actress? And Shame, to me, is the best film of 2011.
It's definitely one of the best. It's definitely one of the best for me as well.
Now we have One Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I'm putting it in the definitely deserved section because my favorite movie of that year was Jaws, which to me is Spielberg's best.
It's definitely a masterpiece. I mean, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and Jaws, I would definitely tie for the best of the best. I mean, both of them are fantastic.
Now we have Rocky. Again, putting it, I don't know if it really deserved Best Picture over Taxi Driver. So I'm kind of torn between putting it in either one. You know what? I'll put it in here.
I think both of them are equally good.
Yeah.
Now we have Annie Hall. Even though the clear winner was, of course, Star Wars, I still really liked it.
I love it.
However, since it did win against against Star Wars, I'm putting it right here.
Okay.
Now we have The Deer Hunter, which I'm putting it right over here.
It's a masterpiece. Enough said.
And it's pretty sad that Michael Cimino went on to ruin his career with a theatrical cut of Heaven's Gate.
Which I love Heaven's Gate. It is the most underrated film I've ever seen in my life. It's just too bad that they released a theatrical cut of the film instead of the original cut, which was like 3.5 hours.
That, Daredevil, and Kingdom of Heaven are examples that the director's cut can be better than the theatrical cut.
Yeah, and another thing too, that before we continue. In 1984, the Ladd Company also released a theatrical cut of Once Upon a Time in America, and it was poorly received because the longer cut is considered a masterpiece by critics everywhere. They should have released the longer cut of the film instead of the theatrical cut. But no, because they had to release in some art house theaters, a lot of people didn't get to see the original cut of the original long cut of the Once Upon a Time in America, which caused the Ladd Company to go bankrupt.
Yeah, which is a shame. Now we have the 70s version of Marriage Story, Kramer versus Kramer. I'm putting it in this tier because there was also, even though it is really good, there was also Apocalypse Now and Alien.
Yeah.
Yep.
Apocalypse Now is like the best film of 1979, but Kramer versus Kramer is like number 2 for me.
And Alien number 3.
Yeah.
Now we have Ordinary People. Again, putting it over here because there was also my favorite movie of that year, The Empire Strikes Back. Also, The Elephant Man, Raging Bull, The Shining, etc., etc.
My favorite film of 1980 is easily Martin Scorsese's Raging Bull. That should have won. But Ordinary People, I would definitely put as number 2.
Now we have Chariots of Fire. To me, it's a really forgettable sports drama. I'm putting it in the undeserved section. Either Reds or Raiders of the Lost Ark should have won.
It's good, but not great. I personally think Raiders of the Lost Ark should have got it.
Gandhi, I'm putting it in the I don't know section because even though it is really good and Ben Kingsley did deserve the Oscar,
Yeah.
either E.T. or Death Boat should have won.
E.T. should have won.
I'd say Blade Runner because it's my favorite movie of that year, but again, like with Heaven's Gate, etc., the wrong cut was released in theaters.
Yeah. Like I said, this was back at the time when studios released the wrong cut of the film and they just ruined the director's vision of it.
Yeah.
I hate when stuff like this happens.
In terms of endearment, I'm putting it in the definitely deserved section because even though it's up there, there was also The Right Stuff. I haven't seen Scarface, but I've heard nothing but praise about that movie. So
Scarface is great, and I love The Right Stuff, but in terms of endearment, I think it's the best film of 1983. But that's just me.
Now we have Amadeus. Again, putting it in the definitely deserved section because it did deserve the Oscar, even though my favorite film of that year was either Ghostbusters or Once Upon a Time in America.
Which I already mentioned, they should have never released the theatrical cut of Once Upon a Time in America. The 4-hour cut of the film is much better.
Now we have Out of Africa. Personally, I thought it was pretty underrated, but still, Best Picture, no. So I'm putting it in the I don't know section. Back to the Future.
It was okay. Personally, either Back to the Future or my favorite film in 1985, which was The Color Purple, should have won.
Now, as for Platoon, there was nothing else that year.
It's a masterpiece.
Yeah. Now, as for The Last Emperor, I'm putting it in the definitely deserved section. Even though there are films like The Full Metal Jacket and The Princess Bride that year.
Not to mention Good Morning Vietnam and Broadcast News.
Now we have Rain Man.
I'm putting it
in the definitely deserved section because I personally prefer other movies from that year like Die Hard, Grave of the Fireflies, Mississippi Burning.
I really like Rain Man because I'm on the spectrum and it helped bring people who are into movies about what autism is like, and I find that groundbreaking in a good way.
Yeah, I do too, honestly.
And
thanks, Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah, thanks.
Now, a lot of people may consider this his best performance, Dustin Hoffman, but to me, his best performance is Marathon Man, but that's a different story. Now we have Driving Miss Daisy. I thought it was good, but not great. Put it in the undeserved section.
I love the movie, but I agree that there are better films in 1989 than just that film. Do the Right Thing, Drugstore Cowboy, and My Left Foot.
Yeah. Now we have Dances with Wolves. Again, a really good movie, but the true Best Picture winner was Goodfellas.
My all-time favorite movie should have won Best Picture.
Now we have Silence of the Lambs.
It's a classic.
Yes.
Now we have Unforgiven, one of two Clint Eastwood movies to win Best Picture.
It's my all-time favorite Western film.
Now as for Schindler's List, enough said.
Yeah, really. What more can be said about Schindler's List? It's a masterpiece.
I had to watch that at school to understand what life was like during the Holocaust, and I was shook in a good way.
Spielberg did a phenomenal job with that film. I still consider it his masterpiece to date.
Liam Neeson did a great job as Oscar Schindler.
Yes.
He should have won the Oscar. Him and Ray Fiennes should have won.
Ralph
Fiennes.
No, it's actually pronounced Ray Fiennes.
Now, Forrest Gump, I'm putting it in this tier because of three movies I thought were way better. Pulp Fiction, The Shawshank Redemption, which is my number 5 favorite movie of all time, and The Lion King, which is my number 3 of all time.
Which I sadly have to disagree with you on.
Now we have Braveheart. It definitely deserved it. And Mel Gibson should have been nominated for Best Actor. I mean, I know technically he won Best Director, but his performance in that movie is just magnificent.
Freedom!
Oh, wait a minute. There was one film in 1987 that I forgot should have also won Best Picture. Moonstruck. Did we mention it?
That's James Bond.
No, Moonstruck was with Cher.
You're thinking of Moonraker.
Oh!
Now I have The English Patient. Yeah, really good movie, but it was definitely way too long. And there are other movies that I prefer over it, like Hunchback of Notre Dame, Fargo, which to me should have won the Oscar. And,
Yeah.
But personally, my favorite movie of that year was this poster right here.
Independence Day?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I did not like that film at all.
I can understand why. Anyways, now we have...
I'm not a fan of Roland Emmerich. I don't think he's a good director at all, and he doesn't rely on good character development nor a good story at all.
Now we have Titanic. I'm putting it in the definitely deserved section. Because while it is in my top 5 that year, I still prefer films like Princess Mononoke, Good Will Hunting, LA Confidential, but that's not to take away how deserving it was for Best Picture.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now we have the most controversial Best Picture winner.
Oh my god, this film.
Saving Private Ryan should have won.
This movie. Shakespeare in Love, more like Shakespeare in Loathsome. That movie was such a disservice to William Shakespeare.
Yeah, and actually, that movie should not have been nominated over films like The Prince of Egypt or The Big Lebowski.
Well, then again, The Big Lebowski had average reviews at the time.
Yeah.
Well, there's also The Truman Show, and
that should have been nominated for Best Picture.
And Affliction, which I hear good things about.
Affliction was a great movie.
And I know there's other ones, but I can't think of it on the top of my head. But yeah, Shakespeare in Love, one of the worst movies to win Best Picture.
Personally, it's my most hated out of all of them, but I know you saw ones that were worse.
Yeah. Now we have American Beauty. Even though I do prefer movies like Fight Club and The Matrix and Magnolia, that's not to take away from the Best Picture that was American Beauty.
It's a wonderful film.
Now we have Gladiator.
My pal Richard Epcar did ADR for that film, and he did the direction for various dubs in that language. if you listen closely in the opening,
You could hear Richard Epcar's voice in there.
Gladiator, I'm putting it in this tier because I know some people prefer other movies like Almost
Requiem for a
Famous,
Dream.
Castaway.
I think Almost Famous and Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon should have won.
Now I have a beautiful mind. I'm putting it in the yellow section because there are other films that year like Fellowship of the Ring and Memento.
My
I
favorite
think
movie.
Fellowship should have won.
My favorite movie of 2000. Personally, my favorite film of 2001 was Mulholland Drive. That to me should have won.
Now Chicago, that's a really entertaining musical, but
Yeah.
Best Picture.
I
yeah.
wouldn't say it's the best film of 2002. Personally, The Pianist should have been that film.
Punch Drunk Love is pretty good.
Yeah, Punch Drunk Love should have also gotten a lot of recognition too.
And Academy, I'm pretty disappointed because The Pianist, you did give it Best Actor, Best Adapted Screenplay, and you even gave Roman Polanski an Oscar. So The Pianist was right there, people.
Yeah, seriously, that didn't make any sense. That didn't make any sense for Chicago to win Best Picture. All right, because it's Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah, him. Now I have Lord of the Rings. The Lord of the Rings movies are my second favorite movie of all time, so I'm putting it way up in the top tier.
Yeah,
It was
That's
that
a wonderful film.
Some say it was just a win for the entire trilogy rather than Return of the King as a whole.
I can see that because there are some people who view them as one big movie, one big 9-hour movie.
Or 12-hour if you have the extended
all
cuts.
Right. All three of them are fantastic movies in their own right.
Now I have $1 Million Baby. I'm putting it in the definitely deserved section because while it did deserve it, personally, I do prefer films like The Aviator and The Incredibles, but that's just my take.
The Aviator was very close to me.
Now I have one of the other controversial Best Picture winners, Crash.
Look, I don't love this movie as much as a lot of people did. It's just.
Well, there are a lot of films about racism, but some people weren't just ready for films about the LGBT community like Brokeback Mountain.
That should have won Best Picture. Even though my favorite film of 2005 was Capote, I can't deny that Brokeback Mountain should have won Best Picture.
For me, it was Batman Begins, which wasn't even nominated.
Yeah.
Now we have The Departed, the only Scorsese Best Picture winner.
And it
gets the top tier.
I'm a Massachusetts man, and I approve of that.
Now I have No Country for Old Men. I'm putting it in the definitely deserved section because for a lot of people it was between this and There Will Be Blood for Best Picture of the Year.
And I love both of them.
Personally, I would have tied them both for Best Picture.
Yeah.
For Best Director, it would have been PTA for There Will Be Blood. For Best Screenplay, Best Adapted Screenplay, it would be No Country, and Best Original Screenplay would be Juno.
No Country is one of my favorite Coen Brothers movies alongside Lebowski and Fargo.
It's definitely my second favorite. Only behind Fargo.
Now we have Slumdog Millionaire. I'm putting it in this tier because there was one movie for me that wasn't even nominated. My favorite movie of all time, The Dark Knight.
But because Harvey Weinstein had to just grab his greedy little dick on such an Oscar bait film like The Reader, That's why it wasn't nominated.
You know what? I'll be fair. I'll put it in this one. Now we have The Hurt Locker. Even though I think Up should have won Best Picture, The Hurt Locker is just as deserving. So I'm putting it up there.
Oh boy, I know what comes next.
Yeah.
I think
this movie is overrated. I'm sorry. It is one of the most overrated films I've ever seen in my life. Inception, Toy Story 3, and my favorite movie that year, The Social Network, should have won Best Picture. But no, Harvey Weinstein just had to grab his greedy little dick and just hit the Oscars and just make the Oscars let his film win Best Picture.
Well, the good news is he's behind bars and can't make movies anymore.
Good.
Now we have The Artist.
Once again, yours, Weinstein.
Yeah, seriously. Now I have The Artist. I'm putting it in the definitely deserved section because it did deserve it, even though my favorite movie of that year wasn't even nominated. Shame.
Yeah.
Now we have Argo Fuck Yourself.
Or Argo Jump in the Lake for G-rated folks.
Or Pokemon, or Argo to the Polls.
My friend Keith Sarabica was in this film, as well as The Dark Knight. He's the voice of Trigon from Teen Titans, Harbinger from Mass Effect 2, Didact from Halo 4, Venom from Spider-Man Web of Shadows. He's a nice guy.
Nice.
Now we have 12 Years a Slave. For many, the Schindler's List of this generation.
It's well deserved.
Even though my favorite movie of that year was Man of Steel or Secret Life of Walter Mitty, or even Gravity, that was my pick. But 12 Years a Slave did deserve it, and Michael Fassbender should have won supporting actor as well.
Yeah, he should have.
Now we have Birdman. Again, putting it in the deserved section because, again, I do prefer... because it's my number 2 behind my one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time, Whiplash.
That's a masterpiece.
Now we have Spotlight. This Spotlight pretty much shook everyone when it won the top spot. But, however, I'm putting it in the definitely deserved section because it is a really good movie, well-acted and well-directed film.
It was my favorite movie of 2015. I was very happy that it won.
Even though, personally, I would have chosen one of my favorite movies of all time, Mad Max Fury Road, Spotlight did deserve it.
Yeah, Mad Max Fury Road was very close to being on my number 1. The only thing that kept it from being number 1 was Spotlight, and my number 2 film, which is one of my all-time favorite romance films, Brooklyn.
Still need to see Brooklyn.
You should. Saoirse Ronan was fantastic in that film. I've seen the film 3 times, and it just gets better and better and better the more I think about it.
Now I have the other 2010's Best Picture winner that shook everyone, but in a different way, Moonlight.
Moonlight is amazing.
Now I have Shape of Water, Guillermo del Toro.
One of the best movies from 2017. Absolutely deserving of that.
When you think about it, Lilo and Stitch may have inspired it in a way because it's about a girl that encounters an alien, but in this case, it's set in the 60s, and a mute woman gets to encounter a friendly fish creature.
Now I'm putting it in this tier because it's in my top 10, but films like Logan or 3 Billboards, I thought those were better.
My favorite film in 2017 was easily 3 Billboards, but I could see why The Shape of Water won. Because we rarely get films that are like... It's more like a tribute to like these creature feature films, if you really think about it.
Yeah. Now we have this generation's Driving Miss Daisy, Green Book. it gets the spot it deserves because it didn't. Even though I really liked it, it did not deserve Best Picture. Films like films like A Star Is Born, Black Klansman, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse,
The Favorite.
Infinity War.
Honestly, not a fan of Infinity War because of my stance against the MCU and cinematic universes. I just have creative differences.
Yeah, that's understandable.
And
let me just say this though. At least it's better than Bohemian Rhapsody and the worst one of the Best Picture nominees that year, Vice.
yeah, at least those two movies didn't win.
Yeah,
Now I have the most recent one, Parasite.
it's one of my all-time favorite movies.
It definitely,
just say Parasite?
That's Venom.
definitely deserved this movie, even though my personal favorite movie was Avengers Endgame. But Parasite is in my top 10. And it I can't argue against it being the first foreign film to win Best Picture, even though
I was so pleased when I first saw the news about it. I was so pleased. You know, and I gotta say this too. Not only did it originally when I saw Spotlight, I thought it would be my favorite film of the 2010s, but then this film came out and it just dethroned it.
But I will say that this should not have been the first foreign film to win Best Picture.
Crouching
M
Tiger,
should have
Hidden
been-
Dragon should have.
For me, I'd say M should have won in 1939, then 8.5 in 1963, and then Cinema Paradiso in 1989.
Cinema Paradiso is a masterpiece.
But there you go. This is our official tier list of all the Best Picture winners.
And I gotta say that's a great ranking for these like best picture like tier list.
Yeah. So yeah. Well, that's it for us. Now for the main event.
Oh yes.
The cruddy stuff.
The top. Yeah,
The top
the 10 worst movies of 2020.
20. Now,
Or Strong Bad would say bottom 10.
yeah, really. Now
Hmm.
let me just go over the same thing as everyone says in their worst and best of videos. This is just our personal opinion. These other movies on what either me or Soren consider the worst movies of the year. If your pick, if the movie that you like is on this list, please do not get offended on it. That's good that you were able to enjoy these movies. It's just we wish that we could have.
Yeah, this is subjective, not objective.
Yeah,
Just
really.
because a certain movie is in this list doesn't mean it's gonna make it in other people's list. Like for example, Batman vs Superman: The Ultimate Cut. That's personally my favorite movie of 2016. But would I put it in the official top 10 greatest movies of 2016? Hell no.
No, but yeah, but yeah, this is just a subjective list, guys. Please be respectful about it. And like I said, if you disagree, you can always put in the comments what your worst movies that you saw in 2020 were.
Mm-hmm.
But before we talk about the 10 worst movies that Soren and I saw, we're gonna go over some dishonorable mentions. These were the movies that were bad, but not quite bad enough to be on the list.
Now, I'm probably not going to go over my picks because I did talk about them in a separate video on my channel, but I'm still going to list them off regardless. In fact, you could pretty much call call them my number 16 to number 11 worst movies of 2020. Okay, number 16 was the SpongeBob movie, Sponge on the Run. I know it doesn't technically come out here until next month, but I'm counting it as a 2020 release. Such a disappointing sequel. And
Or a prequel, because it takes place before the first SpongeBob movie.
Yeah, and originally I was going to review this one, but after hearing some mediocre things about that one, it's just, and how this is like Nickelodeon's attempt to cash in on the spin-off Camp Pearl. I'm just like, yeah, I'm not seeing it.
As Brad from My Life as a Teenage Robot said,
Milk it for as long as you can.
My number 15 is Hillbilly Elegy. Ron Howard, what were you thinking? Number 14 is I'm Thinking of Ending Things. Sorry, guys, I did not like this one.
I did not like that film either. The most overrated film of the year.
More like I've been thinking of ending things at the bean board shitless. More like it.
Oh my god, that was funny.
Hey, number 13 was Bloodshot, a pretty mediocre superhero movie with Vin Diesel. Number 12 was Monster Hunter. Paul W.S. Anderson, please stop trying.
Seriously.
And number 11, the one that almost made it, The New Mutants. Let's just be thankful the X-Men are home at Marvel.
well, in my opinion, no, but it was studio interference that changed the New Mutants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As for my dishonorable mentions, I'm going to list them. I'm not going to go into details for any of these. These are just the movies that I consider bad, but not quite bad enough to be on the list. Starting with, as Soren explained, the New Mutants. Again, bad, but not bad enough to be in my top 10. You Should Have Left. That was the film with Kevin Bacon and Amanda Seyfried that came out on VOD in the middle of June, and directed by David Koepp. Directed and written by David Koepp, and it was boring.
Coep, I think.
Co-op, yeah. This next one's probably going to be a controversial pick, but the more I thought about this next chick, the more I thought about this remake, the more I just grew to dislike it even more. The Mulan remake.
I disagree. This is one of the few movies that we disagree on.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I respect. As I said, I respect your opinion. This is just a subjective list.
Yeah.
Next, one of the dumbest films of the year, Bloodshot. Then we have another crappy remake on the list, Downhill. This was a remake of a Sweden film, of a film from Sweden called Force Majeure, which I heard great things about, and I can't imagine that.
It's really good. I saw it in class last semester, and I actually really liked it. Originally, I was going to see this movie because I liked the original, and the director of that movie did direct way back, not the Ben Affleck movie, the coming-of-age movie. But I decided, nah.
You're not missing much, honestly, because again, I haven't seen the original, but the remake had really terrible character development in it. The acting is good and it's very well shot, but the characters and the story and the script were just all over the place. Next, my most disappointing film. Next is my second most disappointing film of the year. Originally, this was my most disappointing film of the year, and so I thought about this next pick. Next, we have Wendy. This is not how you make a Peter Pan movie for a new generation.
Although you will say it's way better than Pan by Joe Wright.
Yes. Yeah.
I think P.J. Hogan's Peter Pan is better than those two.
Yeah.
And also the Disney movie. And also Hook with Robin Williams.
I think that one is underrated. then that's my most disappointing film of the year. That's my most disappointing film of the year. Jon Stewart, what happened? Irresistible.
For a while, I thought you were going to say I'm thinking of ending things.
Nope. Although that would be a special mention on the list. Next, Wild Mountain Thyme. This was the movie written and directed by the writer of Moonstruck, Sean Patrick Shanley, and it did feature some good performances by Emily Blunt and Jamie Dornan. Surprisingly, unfortunately, the movie was a mess, and I was also very disappointed with Christopher Walken's performance in the film. He's supposed to have this Irish accent in the film, and he didn't even try.
I
should have gotten some cowbell.
I have not even heard of that movie until now. I guess that's a good thing in my part.
Yeah, man, you're not missing much about this one. Then the last two were very close to being my top 10. The Craft Legacy. This is not how you make a sequel to the cult classic to the cult classic film from 1996.
On the positive side, the 1996 film got a 4K release as a tie-in for that film.
Let's see. And my last dishonorable mention, this one was very close to being the top 10. Monster Hunter. Very, very close. It's not as bad as Pompeii nor Resident Evil The Final Chapter, but it's still a bad movie.
Although, and the sad thing is, PGA actually made the less reviled Mortal Kombat movie, at least until the reboot in a couple months.
I think you mean Paul W.S. Anderson.
Paul W.S. Anderson.
Oh well. Anyway, that's all for the dishonorable mentions. Let's waste no time and dive right into the top 10 worst movies that Soren and I saw in 2020.
Bottom 10.
Here we go.
Number 10. Number 10 is Rebecca. Number 10 is Rebecca. Why do we keep remaking Best Picture winners? Why do we keep remaking Hitchcockian thrillers? I mean, this is not as bad as Psycho 1998, but this was still bad.
Yeah. From what you just said, when you reviewed it on the last episode, I was like, I was kind of interested in it first, but then I was like, yeah, no.
You're not really missing much.
Yeah, I've been hearing pretty bad things about that one, so thank God I skipped out on that one. My number 10 worst film of 2020 was a movie that came out back in August, and this was a really hard list to make because I had to switch out between the 10, 9, and 8. And believe me when I say this, figuring out which one would be number 10, number 9, and number 8 were very, very hard to choose. But after some careful thinking, I decided this would be number 10 on the list. Starting off the list at number 10 was the movie that came out back in August, and this was a movie that had a good concept and a great actor, but a terrible execution. Number 10 is Unhinged. This is supposed to be the film starring Russell Crowe, and this is supposed to be like an action thriller talking about road rage. And it could have been interesting with its concept. The problem was how it's executed. Like, instead of being a movie that talks about road rage, all we get is just nothing but a cliched and generic action thriller film that has nothing to say about road rage at all. And that really pissed me off about this movie. And not to mention, it was also boring. Really, really boring as hell. I mean, aside from the good acting, good musical score, and decent cinematography, there was nothing else that was good about the movie whatsoever. Not to mention, this had one of the worst editings I've ever seen put to film this entire year, where they were like too much on quick cut edits. Especially with the actions, especially when they showed like the action and the tension between Russell Crowe and the mother, Russell Crowe's character, and the mother and son characters, it was so poorly edited to the point where I didn't even know what the hell was going on. Yeah, and it's also very cliched. Like they rely on those cliched aspects about family and like other things that we've seen in other movies before. And not to mention the characters, minus Russell Crowe, are the characters are poorly developed. Like there's not a single character you care about in the movie whatsoever.
Excuse me? I have to go take a restroom break.
Okay. Well, we'll continue. We'll still continue like while he's taking a restroom break. Yeah, overall Unhinged was a mess. When it's not only like cliched and messy, it's a movie that had very little to say about road rage, and as a result, just became a waste of time. That's why Unhinged easily deserves the number 10 spot.
As for my number 9, I have 2 little words for you, and I think you can take a guess. Twerking minors.
Cuties. Oh my god.
Okay, yeah. Now, a lot of you people may expect this to be way higher on my list. In fact, both Ryan O'Toole and Jay Vader's both listed as number 1, but personally, I didn't hate this movie like 99% of the population because the concept itself could have worked if it weren't for the execution. I mean, the story is so generic and predictable. The way they shoot these dances is like a Kid Spot version of Anaconda. And the story arcs, you can predict every single thing that the protagonist does from the opening scene. Although I will say it is low on the list because to me it does pick up a tiny bit in the third act, but not by much. So yeah, number 9 is Cuties for me.
Yeah, and another thing about that film too, I mean, I only saw one scene from that film, and it was so gross to the point where I just did not want to watch the rest of the film. And it was a scene involving a tampon. A fucking tampon.
You stay away from that boy! He's a minor! Begone, devil spawn!
Yeah. And not to mention, this is supposed to be a message about anti-pedophilia when you literally have actual 11-year-old kids just twerking. Consistency? What's that? That's just contradictory up to an 11.
And again, the concept of little kids coming across these very adult situations could have worked if only the execution was better.
Yeah. Again, I still refuse to see that movie, and like I said, shame on you, the director of this movie.
The director's a she.
I know it's a she. I know she's a woman, so, but still, shame on you. Anyway, number 9 is the worst animated movie I've seen in 2020, which isn't saying much due to the fact that I only saw like probably like 3 or 4 animated movies of 2020 because of the pandemic. But I think you already know where I'm going with this. Number 9. I'm gonna do this for the number 9 spot. Light Zoink Scoop, look out! We're in a shitty movie.
Funny thing is, that's actually my number 8. So we can talk about this movie together.
Yeah, sure, we could do that.
Okay. Scoob is the epitome of what happens when the writers who sign on to this movie don't want don't want anything to do with Scooby-Doo at all. I mean, instead of doing a traditional mystery, instead they do this Blue Falcon superhero Indiana Jones adventure shared cinematic universe thing that's just more messy than anything. And the thing is, they could have gotten it away with it too if it weren't for those meddling dabbing jokes.
And
the dabbing jokes.
At least James Gunn knows how to make better Scooby-Doo screenplays.
If it weren't for those studios meddling his vision. Yeah.
And in my opinion, I think we should have gotten a Scooby-Doo 3. It was supposed to be set in Scotland, where Shaggy and Scooby realized that the monsters were actually the victims. So imagine if the villain was a visual effects artist.
Yeah. So Soren's number 8 and my number 9 is pretty much like what we think of the film. It's just, this is what happens when you take a property that everyone knows, that almost everyone knows, and just completely like shit all over it to the point where it doesn't even become a Scooby-Doo movie at all. I mean, the animation is good. There are a couple of voice actors that do give out decent performances. Like Mark Wahlberg is pretty decent as Blue Falcon, although I didn't like where his character was going. And
at least they kept Frank Welker for Scooby-Doo.
Yes, that was also one of the bright spots of the whole film.
As much as I like Amanda Seyfried, I think Greta Lyle should have returned as Daphne.
Yeah, she should have.
And she and Matthew Lillard were disappointed that Warner Brothers didn't reach out to them.
Yeah, they should have got Matthew Lillard. No offense to Will Forte, but he was a terrible choice to voice Shaggy. And then again, I should have known like how I should have had my concern. Then again, my concerns were unfortunately real, since one of the writers of this movie was one of the writers of my worst movie of the worst movie that I saw in 2019, Playing with Fire.
At least it had some good Brony references.
Oh! Oh!
I'm sorry.
Let me get this for a second. That was the worst part of the whole film. I'm sorry. It served no purpose. And that film treated like the bronies like they're idiots, and which was a huge insult, and it also insulted real firefighters, since that film treated the firefighter characters in that film like a bunch of cartoon characters. Anyway, I'm getting off track with what I said about Scoop. Yeah. Another thing that really pissed me off about this movie, other than the fact that they relied too much on the dabbing jokes, which, if you saw the Blue Falcon dabbing in the trailer, you pretty much know what happens in that.
Then again, other Scooby-Doo stuff has been related to, at the time, popular stuff. For example, in the first Scooby-Doo film, you see Pamela Anderson as herself.
Oh, yeah. I mean, not only was the rest of the casting terrible, well, I wouldn't say terrible, but this cast, the argument that Filmmaster Adam explained this in his worst films of 2020 video, and I actually cannot believe I didn't bring this, that neither Soren and I didn't bring this up, but the fight that Scooby-Doo and Shaggy have in the film literally makes no sense. Like Shaggy is jealous of Scooby-Doo because he's getting a lot of attention from Blue Falcon. Like, that doesn't make any sense because Shaggy is a grown man character in this movie, and yet he's treated as like an 11, either a 10 or an 11-year-old. Like, are you kidding me?
I think it's probably because of the memes that Shaggy is so powerful that he wants to be in a fight with Scooby.
Yeah, but even with that, it had no purpose being in it whatsoever. And I also couldn't believe this. Simon Cowell just tries to separate the Scooby-Doo gang. Like, what?
You know, it's bad that his cameo in Far Away Idol is he's looking at it more fondly than his cameo in this movie.
Yeah, really. This is easily the worst animated film of the year, and it's by far the worst movie that Warner Animation Group has made. And they had a promising start with the Lego movie and the Lego Batman movie. I wasn't a fan of Storks nor Smallfoot, but I would rather watch those movies in a loop than sit through 5 minutes of Scoob ever again. Also, the film has a lot of... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
At least the opening part involved a mystery.
Yeah, but the problem is the continuity errors. Like this is supposed to be like the 1950s, yet it doesn't even know like what the hell it's even taking place at. Is it taking place in the 2010s? 1950s? We don't know because there's a fucking iPhone in it. Yeah, easily number 9 on the list. Scoob is the worst animated film of the year. It's idiotic and it's flat out boring. Yeah, easily deserves a number 9 spot. And Soren, you pretty much explained that Scoob is your number 8, so I guess I'll go ahead and explain my number 8.
Yeah.
The more I thought about the number 8 spot, the more I just grew to hate it even more. Number 8 is Antebellum.
It's the same twist ending as The Village, but worse.
Yeah, I just grew to hate this movie even more as time went on. It's just, I originally gave it a 3 out of 10, but now it's a 2 out of 10. Yeah, I hated this movie. I get what the filmmakers were trying to go for, like they were trying to be like what Get Out was, but here's the problem. Get Out, when it came out in 2017, was original and unique. This Antebellum movie tries way too hard to be like Get Out, and as a result, just becomes a Get Out ripoff. Yeah, and it's depiction of, and as I stated before on 2 podcasts ago, its depiction of slavery was just beyond distasteful. Especially like we mentioned in the twist, where this whole slavery thing was nothing but a park where it's involving the Civil War reenactment. Like, are you kidding me?
Well, examples of twist ending done right include The Sixth Sense. We're not supposed to talk about this. Fight Club. The Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, exactly. That's how you do twist in films right. This twist though is just, it's just for the sake of like shock value, and it just fails miserably. The only thing that saved it from being like here at number 8 instead of like at number 5 or number 4 is that Janelle Monáe gives out a terrific performance in the film, and it has a very good musical score and cinematography. Otherwise, and the first 15 minutes of the film started out promising. I did like the first 15 minutes of the film. But other than that, this movie was shit. It easily deserves a number 8 spot, without a doubt. Antebellum overall was convoluted, confusing, distasteful, and just beyond inconsistent as hell. Yeah, number 8, hands down.
My number 7 is a movie that my friends have been hyping up to be as like one of the worst Happy Madison movies out there, one of the worst movies ever, the worst movie of 2020. And yeah, it is really bad. Number 7 is The Wrong Missy. The main reason why it's my number 7 is because of 2 words. Lauren Lapkus. Or is it Lauren Lipkus?
Lauren Lipkus, I think. Let me look this up.
Regardless, she is just so annoying. Her voice is so grating. She comes up as a creep and a stalker. To the point that I just wanted her to drown. Or get hit by a car. That's how bad her character is.
Yeah, I heard so many awful things about that film, and it's just like I'm not even gonna bother.
If you really want to know how bad this movie is, I recommend the 8pixel90's video on the matter, where they go in depth into that movie.
Yeah, and it's actually Lauren Lapkus, if you're wondering.
Lauren Lapkus, thank you.
You're welcome.
So yeah, number 7 is the Wrong Missy.
All right, number 7. Soren had it in his dishonorable mentions list, and it's by far the worst movie from this director. I think you know where I'm going with this. Ron Howard's Hillbilly Elegy.
Or what I like to call it, what do you get when you take the Beverly Hillbillies and turn it into a generic Oscar drama?
You get this piece of shit. Yo, I'm trying to make a good movie, yo. I'm trying to make a good movie. Yeah, nice try. Nice try. But you failed miserably. Minus a couple good things. First of all, Glenn Close, very good as always. She's absolutely terrific in this movie. And Haley Bennett is also very good too. The cinematography is terrific. It's beautifully shot. And the actors that did play J.D. Vance in the film, they were good too. And the makeup was phenomenal, especially the way they used the makeup on Glenn Close's character to make her look like the real Mama. That was amazing makeup. Unfortunately, the rest of the movie was a mess. From its story to its shit writing to its shit direction by Ron Howard to the rest of the acting being terrible. Amy Adams is so bad in this movie. She is literally mellow. She literally goes over the top melodramatic 101 as the drug addict. It's the drug addict mother. You get back here! You get back here! You get back here! You get back here!
That was unintentionally funny, and we were thinking, was that supposed to make child abuse funny?
This movie made me laugh at child abuse. What world am I living in right now?
Then again, the makeup for Glenn Close's character is good, and Glenn Close did a good job.
Yeah, he did mention that.
Yeah, I did mention that.
Yeah.
The editing is terrible. It's sluggishly paced, and the ending is shit. And it's full of cliches that you've seen in other movies before, and you're just begging for this movie to end. Yeah, Ron Howard, you not only made your worst movie, you made a movie that's even worse than the Da Vinci Code trilogy and the Dilemma. But you just made the most shameless Oscar bait film since Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close.
I'd rather watch Solo over that one.
Yeah, I would too. I didn't like Solo, but at least it was more entertaining compared to this piece of shit.
Fuck Extremely Loud, Incredibly Close.
Seriously, fuck that movie too. And fuck Hillbilly Elegy. It deserves the number 7 worst film of the year spot for me. I'm just hoping that Ron Howard's next film is much better than this one.
And speaking of Oscar bait, Josh Trank, what happened to you? You made one of the best superhero movies of the 2010s, Chronicle, and then you made Fantastic, and then you made this movie.
Capone.
Let me tell you, this makes Fantastic look like X-Men Days of Future Past. Yeah, really. And Tom Hardy in this movie.
Oh my god. I even showed you that image if you remember.
Yeah. Although I will say the makeup on him is pretty decent. His performance. Let me tell you, his performance in that movie makes his performance in Venom look like Daniel Day-Lewis in There Will Be Blood.
I hate to say it, but I kind of agree. I saw one clip of that film, and of Tom Hardy in that film, and I was like, "What? Are you even trying? Are you even trying anymore?"
In the climax, you're gonna have to see it to believe it. Right.
I also saw that clip too.
I think Josh Trank should reconsider his career.
Yeah, where Capone is just running around in a diaper, in a bathrobe.
We're going streaking through the quad and into the gymnasium.
Shooting people up with his golden gun. I mean, did Mel Brooks write that scene? This is 2020's answer to Gotti. I'm saying it right now. This is 2020's answer to Gotti.
And I was worried it would be like that.
So yeah, Capone is unintentionally hilarious, but it doesn't take away the fact that's my number 6 worst film of 2020.
Oh my god. Oh man. Oh, this was why I was looking forward to doing this. Oh man. Oh. I haven't touched number 6 yet, and already I'm just going insane a little. Okay, my number 6 is one of 3 horror films on the list. And number 6 was the movie that came out back in January. And it was in the middle of January that this came out, and it is one of the worst horror films to come out in 2020. Number 6 is The Turning. Oh my god. I don't remember much of this movie. I do remember that except for I do remember that Mackenzie Davis does deliver a good performance in the film, and Brooklyn Prince is very good in the film too. And the actress that played the maid in the film was very good too. Oh, poor Soren. poor Soren. Oh my god. Yeah, I again before I continue, I just cannot believe what I was looking at when I watched that clip from Capone. I mean, Tom Hardy in a diaper? Are you kidding me?
And to think that there are 5 other movies that are worse than that.
Yeah. So anyway, back to this. I do like Finn Wolfhard in the film, but my God, his acting in the film was as this like douchebaggery teenage kid. Again, he's trying, but his performance in the film was just shallow. I know he's trying, but I know he's trying, and I can't really blame him. But it's a shallow performance. Just saying. And Jolie Richardson's in the film, and she's wasted, and they rely so much on these horror cliches involving jump scares, which I'm getting sick and tired of. How many times do we have to say this? This isn't the only time I'm gonna bring this up. Number 5 and 2 also have the same problem, which I'll get to in a little bit. But what I do remember in the film was how goddamn terrible the ending was. This was the reason why this film got an F on Cinema Score. And I rarely talk about Cinema Score, but boy, when they point out a film that's this bad, when they point out a film that not only critics hate, but they hate themselves as well. Yeah, they're right on the nail with this one. They're right on the nail with this one. Just when you thought this movie couldn't get any worse with its terrible story, terrible writing, terrible characters, directing, waste of a good rock music and editing and pacing, this movie goes the devil inside route by throwing in an ending that doesn't even have a fucking ending. I'm not even kidding. There's this one scene towards the end of the film where something happens with Mackenzie Davis's character. Then as soon as that started out interesting, but then as soon as things start to get interesting, the movie's over.
So a poor Monster Hunter.
Except it's much worse. This movie pulled the devil inside ending. Yeah. As soon as it starts to get interesting, it cuts to black and the movie ends. I'm sorry, but how can you make an ending that all of a sudden doesn't even have an ending?
Yeah, it just stops.
That is just lazy filmmaking. You can't make an ending. You can't make an ending that all of a sudden is like what's this? What's this? Something interesting happens? Well, fuck that. Fuck that. We're just gonna cut to black. That is just lazy filmmaking. And lazy writing, I should say. And you know what's even worse? Steven Spielberg was originally going to direct this movie.
Really?
Yeah, he was going to direct this movie, but due to how decided to back out on different projects, which explains why there's an Emblem Entertainment logo on it too. But honestly, I can't blame him for backing out on it. This movie was terrible. The turning would have been the worst horror film I saw in 2020 if it wasn't for the next 2 horror films that I'm going to talk about that are even worse. Yeah, overall, it's cliched, it's idiotic, it's boring, and it's just beyond inconsistent as hell. And The Turning easily deserves the number 6 spot on my worst of 2020 list. And the fact that I saw 5 movies that are even worse than The Turning shows on how bad the next 5 are.
As for my number 5, you think that the director of Syriana and Robert Downey Jr. would have made a far better project. But no. Instead they did little to impress.
Oh my God. I'll talk about that in a little bit because it's in my top 3.
Now, Dr. Dolittle it originally started out as a 1967 film, 1967 musical film, and then it achieved moderate success with the Eddie Murphy movies.
Oh, shit.
But this movie, this is the worst Dr. Dolittle movie by far, with obnoxious effects, terrible acting, like especially RDJ, who gives out this obnoxious accent,
Oh,
and the climax, which is hard to believe. You're just gonna have to see it to believe it.
I'll explain the
Imagine if
climax.
he talked like Coach Z. You got a great job with those animals.
But yeah, I'm sure Nick has far more to say when he goes over it later. But Doolittle did a little to impress, and it's my number 5.
My number 5, yeah, I'll talk about that in a little bit. My number 5 is the worst and most unnecessary sequel of the year, and it's another horror film on the list. Number 5 is Brahms, The Boy 2.
Did anyone ask for this? Like,
Seriously.
anyone?
Seriously. Well, then again, this is from the same jackass that brought us The Devil Inside. I remember the first Boy movie. I remember seeing the first Boy movie. At first, this is one of those movies where I hated it, but then the more I thought about this movie, the more of it's like, it's not bad, but it's nowhere near as good as it could have been. I understand this movie has a lot of fans, which if you like this movie, good. I'm happy for you. I just wish I could have liked it. This movie, though, it's like what would happen if The Boy was a worse film. Aside from the movie taking away a lot of continuity errors from the first film, this movie also has one of the worst plot twists I've ever seen put to film this entire year. I'll explain that after I'll talk about everything wrong with the film. The only thing that's keeping it at number 5 instead of number 2 or 3 is that there are some good performances by Katie Holmes and Ralph Neeson. But other than that, this movie was terrible. When the story is not only cliched, when the story is not only a convoluted mess, it also relies on those horror cliches involving jump scares. Once again, filmmakers, jump scares are not scary. Either you build them with tension and make the jump scares like have the jump scares be caught off guard, or you just build real tension to it. You can't just do jump scares just for the sake of it, or just for it to be this predictable. That's not how it works. The characters are terrible. The dialogue is clunky. The writing is shit. The pacing sluggish as hell. And I gotta talk about that plot twist because it is one of the worst plot twists I've ever seen put to film this entire year. So basically, this whole Brahms thing, we see this doll throughout the entire film, the Brahms doll, and it's basically moving by, and it's basically like, at first it was pretty clever to have it be controlled by a Ralph Neeson's character, but then they decided to go a different route by saying, oh well, the doll controls itself. The doll is actually possessed.
And I thought Cutie's message was contradicting.
First off, how is the doll possessed? I mean, yes, we see the eyes moving, but that's about it. Like, how is the doll possessed? I mean, if it's on strings, then it would be. If it's by a different creator, like Ralph Neeson's character, then it would be understandable. But there's no way in hell that the doll would be this possessed. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, it's just this is one of the worst movies I've seen this entire year. It is easily the worst sequel of the year, hands down. Overall, Brahms the Boy 2 is, as I mentioned, cliched, idiotic, and a convoluted mess, and easily deserves the number 5 spot. And And the fact that this is the last film with some redeeming qualities in it shows on how bad the next four are on the list. I'll be right back for a second. I gotta go get a cord for my computer since it's starting to since it's running low on battery. But Soren, you may continue with your number 4 spot. I'll be right back.
All right. My number 4 is probably the worst horror movie of the year, Fantasy Island. Why is this movie a thing? Why the need to update a perfectly fine show from the 70s? Why make it into a horror film? Why are the characters so bland? Why is Michael Pena in this? Actually, I hope these questions are never answered because they don't deserve to have them answered because this was really bad. I mean, I know there is much to say, but I'm sure Nick is gonna say it all when he goes over it in his discussion. But number four is Fantasy Island.
Oh my god! Yeah, I'll talk about that in a
Jontron
little
would
bit.
say, "Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god!"
Okay, that was funny. That was really funny.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Okay, yeah, I'll explain Fantasy Island when we get to it. But all right. Oh god, the 4 zeros I gave in 2020. Coming in at number 4 is the worst comedy I've seen this year. This movie came out in October, and the fact that this came out after this actor was in 2 movies that were on my top 10 of 2019. Just why? Number 4 is The War with Grandpa.
And to think that his career would actually go upward, but no, he went the Dirty Grandpa route again.
I'll say this: this wasn't as bad as Dirty Grandpa, but it's still a terrible movie. It's still a terrible movie. I mean, I'll say this: Robert De Niro actually does give out a decent performance in the film here than he did in Dirty Grandpa. The problem is that his talent is horribly wasted on such a horrendous script. I really mean it. The script is absolutely horrendous. Since it's filled with cliches and really bad dialogue and just jokes that are just beyond juvenile and idiotic. Especially when they I'll talk about the things in a little bit, but first of all, the rest of the acting feels phoned in. Alt Fagley, I love you, man. But he was terrible. He was absolutely terrible in this movie.
I'd rather watch Shark Tale over this and Dirty Grandpa any day because De Niro had more effort there.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Are you out of your mind?
Schaefer-Rillas, take note.
Yeah. Yeah, Christopher Walken is horribly wasted in this movie. I could not believe he's in 2 of my worst films of the year list. First Wild Mountain Time and now this one. What is going on? His talent is horribly wasted in this movie, and so is Cheech Marin and Uma Thurman. Like, really?
Bonsai and Poison Ivy.
The editing is atrocious. The story sucks balls. The script is terrible, and when it comes to the jokes are just beyond stupid and juvenile and idiotic, especially with the pranks. The pranks are just. You're not going to believe this. So this whole prank war thing was was like, oh, how should I put this? Because Oates Fagley's character was mad that he has to share a room, that he has to let his grandpa sleep in his room. This all of a sudden causes Oates Fagley's character to go on a war with his grandpa by doing an all-out prank war. Like, really? I never read the book it was based on, but it's just, it's got to be a lot different than in the book than here. Oh, and speaking of the pranks, they are just beyond stupid and idiotic. Especially two pranks that really pissed me off. There were two pranks in the film that really pissed me off. One takes place in a funeral, and Oates Fagley placed this prank on his and Oates Fagley's character placed this prank on his on Robert De Niro's character, where he accidentally drops the phone on. He accidentally drops his phone on a corpse, and he has to get it back. So what does he do? He just basically looks for the phone all over the dead corpse. This is not funny. God, and I thought a Medea family funeral was poorly handled with the funeral stuff. This is the war with Grandpa is somehow worse. And I gotta mention this other prank that really pissed me off. There's another joke. There's another prank joke that they do in the film. It's a prank, by the way. There's another prank that goes on in the film. They repeat this joke throughout two times in the film. And it was this prank where Robert De Niro's character is flashing his genitals. I cannot make this up. I am not making this up. Thankfully, we don't see his genitals, but we do see his butt. We do see him butt naked, and it's just like.
Are you sure this is a PG-rated family film?
I'm not even kidding. I really can't make this up.
Beep, beep, beep. Oh, sorry. Oh, what's that? It's a you can't make this stuff up alarm.
I'm literally about to play this. I didn't think I would bring this joke back. But fuck it, I'm gonna have to.
I never thought he'd actually bring that up after Flex for the Dicks 59.
I didn't think I would do that either. But it's that genital joke that really got me like this. It's just, why was that necessary? Especially in the PG film. Especially in the PG family film. And of course, they pull that identity thief effect where Oates Fagley admits that what he did was wrong, and yet they try to make you feel sympathy for him. Yeah, nice try. Nice try. His actions are justifiable, all because he's mad that he has to share his room. All because he has to let his grandfather sleep in his room, and yet all this prank stuff, actions that he did was justifiable, and yet you're making me feel sympathy for him? Fuck you, movie. this movie can go to hell. It is the worst comedy of the year. When the movie was not only cliched and redundant, it's also idiotic and just beyond annoying as hell. And it easily deserves the number 4 spot as my number 4 worst film of the year, and easily the worst comedy of the year. And you know what's even worse? One of your dishonorable mentions, the SpongeBob movie Sponge on the Run, and my number 4 pick, The War of Grandpa, are both directed by Tim Hill.
Which is kind of sad because you know what he directed back in the 90s?
What's
Muppets
that?
from Space.
Yeah, that was good. What happened? Yeah, it easily deserves the number 4 spot. I hated this movie. And the fact that I saw 3 more movies that are even worse shows on how bad the next 3 are. But we'll get to it. It's just not right now.
So, making a movie centered around the COVID pandemic.
Oh my god.
Does sound like a intriguing idea. But again, such as with Cuties, execution does not mean premise does not equal execution. Songbird. With the poorly shot action and drama, 2 annoying, pretty bad acting with characters who act like like they shouldn't have, and an overall message that just seems more preachy than anything. It's pretty bad that this message is so bad that people have deemed it as tasteless as the virus itself. Was that too much? Was that Joe too much?
In my opinion, no.
No.
I watch a lot of Brandon Rogers, so no.
Okay, good. But anyways, number 3 is Songbird.
And I'll explain that later when we get to it. Number 3, Soren pretty much explained it on his list, and it's definitely my number 3. And this was a movie that almost made me quit doing movie reviews. Almost. Number 3 is Doolittle, or as I like to call it, Pooh Little. Oh, Pooh Little Star, how I wonder what type of fucking shit you are. Oh, God.
The Nostalgic Critic review is pretty good.
Yeah.
Robert Downey Jr. You went from Tony Stark, one of the best characters in film history, and one of the best Marvel characters ever. You ended that film with a swan song in Avengers Endgame, and this is what you do next after that film? Are you kidding me? Aside from the film having some of the worst visual effects I've ever seen put to film this entire year, as well as some of the worst editing of the year, and a really terrible story and horrible dialogue, especially since it's involving characters saying bro. Sorry if that was cringy. It's just, I know it was cringy, but what are you gonna do? Aside from that, the acting is absolutely terrible. Robert Downey, as I mentioned, Robert Downey Jr. easily gets out. I think, in my opinion, he easily gives out the worst performance of his career.
Which isn't really saying a lot.
I know. I'm not even kidding when Soren and I discussed. I'm not even kidding when I discussed this with Soren on a few podcasts ago. Robert Downey Jr.'s accent he tries to pull on Dr. Dolittle didn't even sound legit. Instead, it sounded more like a caricature of one of Guy Ritchie's Sherlock Holmes characters. And I can't even believe the rest of the voice acting cast of the film. I couldn't believe Antonio Banderas of all people wouldn't even play one of the pirate characters, and yet he gives out one of the worst performances of the year. Like, what a waste of his talent. And also, I can't even believe the rest of the voice cast in the film. I mean, look at the other voice cast in the film. I mean, let me look this up really quick. I mean, look at this. Look at this. You have Emma Thompson, Rami Malek, John Cena, Kumail Nanjiani, Octavia Spencer, Tom Holland, Craig Robinson, Ray Fiennes, Selena Gomez, Marion Cotillard, and Will Arnett. And this was the best. And Ralph Neeson and Jesse Buckley. What did they see in the script?
Not to mention, like I said before, the director of Syriana.
Except this wasn't really his fault. This was more on the studio because, like I mentioned, a bad case of studio interference. And to Jonathan Liebsman, who directed the reshoots, and Chris McKay, who wrote the film, who rewrote, who did the rewrites, shame on you two, because you made one of the worst films of the year, and not to mention one of the worst family movies I've ever seen in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and as if things couldn't get more idiotic, this movie also has one of the worst climaxes I've ever seen put to film. There's a scene in the climax where Robert Downey Jr. has to get the bagpipe out of the dragon's butt.
Even worse is that the dragon looks like a carbon copy of Smaug from The Hobbit.
It does. It does, actually. Yeah. And what's the outcome of this? A dragon farting.
Well, they had dragon farting tastefully in an episode of Samurai Jack because his stomach is bad and Samurai Jack has to go inside.
Ah, shit. I'm sorry to go off like that, but are you kidding me? That's the best climax you can come up with? Overall, Pooh Little tries way too hard to be one of those, to be a reboot, a swashbuckling remake of the reboot of the original Dr. Dolittle films, and ends up being one of the most inconsistent and idiotic movies I've seen this year. Inconsistent, idiotic, and inept are the perfect words to describe this piece of shit. And the fact that I saw two more movies that were even worse than Pooh Little shows on just how bad the next two are. Oh my god. Yeah, number two on the. It's
Number three?
Yeah, number three. I'm sorry. It easily deserves the number three spot.
As for my number two, well, you wouldn't have a worst of the year list post 2014 without one of those movies, huh? One of these fan fiction, one of those fan fiction try hard sexy movies. I mean, you had first there's 50 Shades of Dog Shit, then it's parody 50 Shades of Black, then 365 Days, and now this movie, After We Collided.
Which is a sequel to the first After movie, which I did not see the first one, nor will I ever see this one.
the first movie was really, really horrible, you think this movie would have been a little better, right? To quote Kevin Spacey, wrong! Instead, this movie is far worse. The acting is far worse than the first one. The characters are even more unlikable than the first one. The sex is even less sexy than the first one. And the drama is even more forced than the first one. I mean, the third act alone, the climax just ends just as abruptly as it begins. I mean,
Are you? Oh my god.
I mean, you know it's bad when the fan fictions that I write and post on my DeviantArt page, FilmBrony, the fan fictions I write on my DeviantArt page are Lord of the Rings compared to these movies.
And that's saying a lot.
So yeah, number 2, Afterbirth 2 is my number 2.
Okay.
Number 2.
Yeah, I know which one. I know which one you're at. Number 2, another film Soren explained on his list, and this is easily this was originally my number 1 before. This was originally my number 1 just 10 months until another film came out that was even worse. Number 2 is Fantasy Island.
Nightmare Island, I call it.
This movie is just horrendous. As a film based on the TV series as a film that is not only based on the TV series of the same name, but also a prequel, it is just atrocious. I already explained what was wrong with this movie when I did a essay review on it on my Facebook page. But so I'm gonna probably sum it up in such small details. Just this movie is just horrendous. I mean, from the same jackass that brought us Truth or Dare, and he just made a movie that's even worse than Truth or Dare, which I didn't even think was possible, but he did it. He did it. I already explained what was wrong with this movie in full detail, but I'll explain some things in the film that really pissed me off to no end. First off, aside from the acting being terrible, minus Maggie Q, who's only trying her best despite her talent being wasted in such a garbage script, the worst actors in the film, and other than Lucy Hale being horribly wasted in this movie, and Michael Pena being horribly cast as Mr. Rourke, the worst performance in the film go to the 2 actors that played the stepbrothers. Oh my god, they were annoying. They were annoying in the film, especially since they were supposed to come up as the comic relief characters in the film. But here's the problem: they're comic relief characters just for the sake of being comic relief characters, especially in this one scene. Oh yeah, and when it comes to the comedy in the film, it is beyond cringeworthy as hell. Especially in this one scene where they're in this room, they're in this room that is full of tuxedos, and then one of them says, "Whoa, it's just like we're in a Jodie Foster movie," and then here comes this bullshit, and then they go into this closet. They go into this other room and it's full of armor, and then one of them says, "Yippee-ki, yes!" Fucking, I'm doing it again. Why? why would you quote Die Hard, but with Yippee-ki-yay? God, fuck this movie.
And you know it's bad when Yippee-ki-yay Mr. Falcon is better than this.
Yeah, really. I know I'm overreacting, but it's just. I know I'm overreacting, but it's just I gotta express something that really pisses me off about this movie. It's just. And another thing, and of course they rely on those car cliche. And when it comes to the bar in the film, it is beyond idiotic, especially since you could predict every scare that's coming from a mile away. Like I said, jump scares galore. Like jump scare this, jump scare that. Once again, jump scares are not scary unless you build tension and have the scares be caught off guard. If you make it predictable, then it's not scary. But I want to talk about the thing that really pisses me off that put this at number 2 on the list. The fucking plot twist. So it's revealed that this whole fantasy island... Now, and it did have a good message in there, but it's poorly executed. So this whole fantasy island getaway thing, where you can have only one of your fantasies come to life, was nothing but Lucy Hale's character Melanie Cole's plan to get revenge on everybody on the island because she lost her because her boyfriend died in the fire, and they were making fun of her for that. Here's one of the biggest problems with this twist. First of all, I get they were trying to go for the anti-bullying message, but it doesn't work if the characters are this stupid and unlikable. And second, this makes Melanie Cole such a psychopathic character. Like, she would even dare bring people into the world just to have them killed. Just to get revenge on them. That is so... I know this is from the same jackass that wrote Truth or Dare, but come on, have some dignity, man. I don't have anything else to explain about Fantasy Island. It is one of the worst. It is the worst horror film I've seen in 2020, and one of the worst. I'm going to go as far as to say this. This is by far the worst movie Blumhouse has made. And I've seen the Purge movies, and I've seen the Purge Election Year, and that's a bad movie, but I can't imagine anything that tops Truth or Dare as being the worst of the worst. I mean Fantasy Island as being the worst of the worst. This is bottom of the barrel garbage. As if Chips wasn't bad enough. As if they didn't learn their lesson from Chips, now they repeat the same mistake again in Fantasy Island, but with much worse results. And you know what's even worse about Fantasy? You know what's even worse about the director of this movie, Jeff Wadlow? His next project he's working on, his next project coming up, is another horror film he's producing along with Blumhouse, and you're not going to believe this bullshit. It's on a toy about it's on a Magic 8-Ball toy.
He made Kick-Ass 2. What happened to him? What the hell happened to him?
I wasn't a fan of Kick, and I didn't like Kick-Ass 2, but I'm going to watch that film than sit through this garbage again. Yeah, I'm dreading the day that I review that one. And I like to go and I don't like going to movies like thinking it's gonna suck because I like to go in open-minded. That's a healthy experience for me. But every once in a while, I come across a movie that's like, yeah, it's gonna suck, and I'm dreading the day that I review the Magic 8 Ball movie. I am dreading the day that I review that film. This would have been my number one worst film of the Fantasy Island would have been my number one worst film of the year if it wasn't for another film that came out 10 months later that was even worse and actually more offensive more offensive and distasteful than I can ever imagine. And Soren pretty much explained this, but we'll get to it after he gets to his number one. So Fantasy Island overall easily deserves the number 2 spot. Fuck this movie. And I already know what your number 1 is.
Folks, it's no secret that Disney has made its fair share of mistakes over the years. I mean, first they made the direct-to-video Disney sequels, which few and far between of them are actually good. Then they almost started their own careers with Home on the Range and Chicken Little. Then those unnecessary Disney live-action remakes, which I'm kind of an apologist for. And people say that this is a low point of Disney. Let me tell you, this movie is so bad that it makes the worst of these live-action movies look like Citizen Kane by comparison. I mean, say what you will about Disney's live-action remakes. At least some of them had effort put into them, like the Jungle Book remake, the Beauty and the Beast remake, the Cinderella remake by Kenneth Branagh. Kenneth Branagh.
I already know what your number 1 is.
Folks, this is pretty much the 2020's answer to The Last Airbender. Because it took a well-beloved children's franchise, and in this instance, the first 2 books of this particular franchise, and turned them into this cheap, idiotic, and laughable sci-fi movie that is just so hard to believe. And it is none other than Artemis's Foul Stench.
I knew it. I knew it would be number 1. Ever since you ranted on this back a few months ago.
Where do I even begin with this? First off, the story. Like I said, it's taken the first 2 books of the first 2 Artemis Fowl books and condensed them into a 90-minute movie. Like, how do you do that and expect something salvageable?
It's not going to work.
Seriously. And the screenplay, it's pretty much proof of it, because it just goes through plot point after plot point after plot point with the little to no character development and little story. Like it's like 95% exposition and 5% actual character development. The acting is beyond abysmal. The young kid, I'm sure he's a nice kid and all, but if this is the movie he chose to start his career, let me tell you, kid, you chose pretty bad, and your performance is just so stoic. I mean, I'm not expecting like Haley Joel Osment out of this guy, but seriously. And the rest of the cast range from pretty okay to just Julie Dent's in this movie.
First cats and now this?
Seriously, fire your agent. And it's like she and Jessica in this movie are trying to compete in the Christian Bale Batman impersonation contest.
I remember seeing that scene. I remember seeing that clip where he's trying to do a Batman impersonation. And I'm just like, what the fuck is this?
Especially when you say lines like get the four-leaf clover out of here. Seriously? Seriously? I thought that when Scoob made that egg bomb joke, I thought that was going to be worse censorship. But this movie proved me wrong. It legitimately proved me wrong. The effects are straight up abysmal. I mean, there's a scene near the middle of the movie. You know what?
Oh, wait a minute. I think I know which one you're talking about.
The sand?
Just wait for it.
The problem is, all the doors are been hard to get in. So, the solution is to have just dig into the hole and tunnel his way into this balloon. Now, on its own, it seems like a decent concept, but again, the execution is just. I mean, first, just like goes to short his mouth and let it go larger. Like this, like that Patrick Star meme from the SpongeBob movie, and he goes like, "It's feeding time," and then he down and shits out the dirt out of his ass while it tunnels into the ground. And like, I know you did this joke twice already in this episode, but fuck it. This scene deserves it. Let me just hold on while I actually look up the clip.
I can help you.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Let me just. I can help you since I have the exact same clip.
Okay, thanks.
Hold on. He's gonna do it again, folks. He's gonna do it again. He's gonna do it again.
Here we go. I mean, seriously, what the fuck were they thinking when they wrote this? What was Kenneth thinking when he shot this and edited this? I mean, were they even trying? So overall, Artemis Fowl is hands down the worst movie of the year. One of the worst family films I have ever seen, and then again, I haven't seen war with grandpa or playing with fire, etc. But still, this might actually, in fact, this might actually be Disney's worst film by far. Period. Of it, or at least of what I've seen.
And that's a lot.
And let me just conclude by saying, Kenneth Branagh, be thankful that Christopher Nolan revived your career 3 months later. Just be thankful. But otherwise, I hope Death of the Nile. I hope you kill it at Death of the Nile, because this movie, I'm not sure how further downhill you could go. So yeah, Artemis Fowl is the worst movie of the year. And
I forgot to mention this with Fantasy Island. You just mentioned the exposition thing. I forgot to mention that Fantasy Island is also obsessed with having characters explain stuff, like having so much exposition to the point where they treat their audience like they're a bunch of 5-year-olds. Like, come on.
So yeah, that's my take on Artemis Fowl. What's your number one?
My number one should be pretty obvious, but I was not ready for what I was about to say with number one, but fuck it. I'm about to say it. Soren had this at number 3, and his number 3 is my number 1 worst film of the year. Number 1 was the movie. Like I said, when I saw Fantasy Island back in February, I thought it would be the worst film of the year. Then 10 months later, this piece of shit shows up, and it dethroned Fantasy Island as the worst film of the year. My number 1 worst film of 2020 is Songbird. This movie, I know, I feel your pain, Soren. I feel your pain. I feel your pain. I'm going to be hugging my Flutterfly plush after this is over. I got to talk about this first. Look, now let me just say this. The concept could have been interesting if it wasn't for the terrible execution. Oh, and to future filmmakers out there, never make a movie about the pandemic in the middle of the pandemic. And I'm well aware that there's a new film involving the pandemic called Lockdown, but I'm not seeing that movie. I mean, I love Anne Hathaway, but I'm not seeing it. This is the worst thing Michael Bay has produced. This is the worst thing Michael Bay has done. And he wasn't the director of this movie. Even though he wasn't the director of this movie, there are some fingerprints all over him since this movie has some of the worst action I've ever seen put to film this entire year, including some of the worst cinematography and editing I've seen put to film this entire year. Not only does the movie involve so much shaky cam throughout, but the film is also relies way too much on the edit, on the cut edits, like quick cut edits, to the point where you can't even tell what the hell was going on. And the worst part about this movie is I actually had a headache after it was over. Never has a movie given me this much of a headache. But Songbird did. The story is a convoluted mess. Like I said, not only is the movie like way too exaggerated with its like COVID, with its like story about this pandemic, called COVID-23. What kind of a name is that, by the way? If it's successor, I can understand that, but I really don't want to get this distasteful. I really don't. But it's just that name is just really stupid. This has some of I couldn't even believe the actors in the film. I mean, I'll say this: the only actor that did seem like he was having fun was this actor who played the villain in the film. Let me look this up really quick.
Peter Stormare.
Thank you, Stormare.
We want some money, Lebowski.
Yeah, Peter Stormare. I would say he would be the best thing about the film, but here's the problem. His talent is wasted on such a horrendous script. When the story is not only a convoluted mess, it also relies way too much on the subplot involving romance. Like, they threw a romance subplot in a movie that's about the pandemic.
I'm glad Pinkie Pie's healing you, Soren.
Yeah.
The acting is absolutely horrendous. Minus Peter Stormare. Everybody's talent is wasted in the film, including KJ Apa, Sophia Carson, Craig Robinson, Bradley Whitford, Alexandra Daddario, Paul Walter Hauser, and Demi Moore. All the talents are horribly wasted in this garbage. The script is the absolute worst of the year, since not only are the characters poorly developed, as well as the dialogue being clunky as hell, but the movie can't even decide what it wants to be. Because the tone is beyond inconsistent as hell. Like, does it want to be a sci-fi action film, a thriller, a romance film? We don't know, because the movie doesn't even bother to pick one. It doesn't even bother. It doesn't even bother to choose. The music is terrible. I already mentioned the cinematography and editing. The directing is also terrible too. It's so poorly directed to the point where you can't even tell what the director was even trying to accomplish or trying to do. The pacing was a sluggish mess. This was an 82-minute film. 82 minutes! And it felt like 2.5 hours long. And another thing that really pissed me off about this movie, and the reason why it's my number one worst film of the year, is its message. This movie has no idea what message it's even trying to go for. Like, if it's trying to be like, don't trust your government and fight for your right message, then it falls flat, because it's a movie involving a pandemic that we're still living through since March of 2020. And this movie even tries to throw a love conquers all message, but then again, it's distasteful because of a movie that's involving the fucking pandemic. We've suffered so much in 2020, and for this piece of shit to come along and try to have it exploit people's deaths, people dying from COVID just for the sake of entertainment and thrills, that is beyond disgraceful and disgusting. It's disgusting. And I'm not making this up. This movie literally exploits the pandemic. Like, thousands of people dying from the pandemic just for the sake of thrills and entertainment.
That's why I'm not going to see it ever.
Don't.
I
mean,
said
say what you-
I won't.
Forget cuties. Forget cuties. This movie should have been banned.
And say what you will about Michael Bay's on Pearl Harbor, at least it tried to. At least it tried.
Yeah, it did. It did, even though it wasn't executed well. But I can at least give it that.
Yeah.
This is the worst thing Michael Bay has produced. It makes the last two Transformers movies that I hated, as well as like Ouija and the Ninja Turtles films, all look like Citizen Kane in comparison. This is the worst thing he produced, and he wasn't. And once again, he wasn't the director of this movie, even though there's fingerprints all over him since he's the producer of it. This movie could burn in hell. It could burn into the fiery pits of hell where Satan could be watching this.
As Al Pacino said, burn this. This must never be seen by anyone. All copies. Destroy them.
And how ironic that scene in Jack and Jill is by far the best in it.
I'd rather sit through that movie than any of these movies ever again.
Honestly, same here. This movie is Songbird is an absolute disgrace. And those who made it, including Adam Mason and Michael Bay, should be downright ashamed of themselves. Just like I am for having to watch this piece of shit. There is no reason for you to see this movie. Do not watch Songbird. It does not deserve the time. It does not deserve your time whatsoever. Songbird is one of the most disgusting and distasteful and repulsive movies I've ever seen in my life. Songbird easily deserves to be named the worst film of 2020 for me. It is one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. Fuck this movie. Oh, thank God I'm done. Thank God we're done. And that's it. That's it for our list of the worst films that we saw in 2020. And tonight's episode of the FilmBrony podcast. This is probably the longest podcast we did, but there were a lot of stuff we had to go over, so that's why this had to be this long. But I would like to thank you all for coming on to this podcast. Thank you to Soren, thank you to Christian for coming on here once again to co-host. Please be sure to subscribe to their YouTube channels. Link is in the description below. Give them the love they absolutely deserve. They are such talented YouTubers and very good people to hang out with.
Thanks. You should check out one of my recent Fantastic Four meme videos. It's the Crater Critters from My Life as Teenage Robot. Instead of the thing, one of them shows up and says, "Pile on!" to Dr. Doom.
I will after this podcast is over. I will check that out. In the meantime, say hello. Say hello, sweetie. Say hello, Fluttershy.
They should be lucky that Tara Strong got to say my name.
Yeah, you're very lucky, man.
Mm-hmm. And
when you do see Tara Strong, whenever you do see Tara Strong again, will you send her a video message for me, while voicing Twilight Sparkle?
Yes, and I'm a fan of My Life as Teenage Robot, and I liked her as Kilgore. Surrender!
Thanks, man. I really do appreciate it, and thank you guys.
And she also voiced Bubbles in the original cartoon.
Right.
And she was in one of my childhood favorite movies, The Ugly Duckling.
Oh yeah. Well, guys, we got to be going. So we got some stuff to worry about. But thank you once again for watching this podcast. And next time on episode 14, we'll be doing the best. After we go over the movie related topics, we'll at least end 2020 on a positive note by talking about the 10 best movies that we saw in 2020. I just want to end this year. I just want to end that on a high note because 2020 was just the worst year that I've ever had to get through in my 23 years of being alive on this earth.
Yeah, 2020 sure sucked. So sucked.
Yeah, it sucked.
Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah. Like this is the third time in this podcast we actually did the Beavis and Butthead impression while shitting on 2020. I need TP for my panel.
I like listening to this.
That's Claymore and Croker.
Oh my god. Oh god. I really needed it after going through a long period of just like talking about the worst films of the year and just after periods and periods of like facing a dark phase like this, like dark phase of depression. Well, that's it, guys. For real. Until next time, when we do episode 14. Hope you all have a great night. Stay safe, and until we see you next time for episode 14. Have a great night. Bye bye.